You really want to know what love is?
Yeah. Yes, tell us. More than anything in the world, Ron.
Well, it's really quite simple. It's kind of like... Gonna find my baby, gonna hold her tight, gonna grab some afternoon delight.
He was found floating in the Mediterranean Sea by an Italian fisherman.
So he told you that he woke up in the middle of the river.
Motto's always been, when it's right, why wait until the middle of a cold, dark night? When everything's a little clearer in the light of day.
When no one's looking, he smokes menthol cigarettes.
And we know the night is always gonna be here anyway.
But they drop out of the trees. He got fondled by a drop.
Oh,
bear.
really?
Yeah, yeah.
Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight. Rubbing sticks and stones together, making sparks ignite. And the thought of loving you is getting so exciting. Sky rockets in flight. Afternoon delight. Whoop. You guys have it, I think.
He pretty much told me within a few minutes how he got fondled by a drop bear in Australia.
Afternoon delight.
Walk me through how you do all of this research, my friend. Please, I'd love to know it.
Yeah, well...
Thinking of you's got me working up an appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
Afternoon delight.
Welcome, guys. We're going to get straight into it here. The X space is happening over with Rob. I just need to click over.
YouTube, then basically make sure you let me know it's working, because you know we have issues sometimes with the YouTube channel. But yeah, that's awesome. So just to let everybody know what this topic's about. Obviously, you know, we've been covering, well, we covered the Charlie Kirk assassination quite extensively during the start. And then I kind of try and give everybody a chance to speak. I do give everyone a chance to give their thoughts and ideas and perspectives. And if you request, you'll be brought up, so don't worry about that. Just keep it respectful, keep it informative. You know, I don't like it when people scream over each other. I just think it's lame. And I do like people to finish their thoughts so that we can understand what their perspectives are and then get the other perspective. I like, I like people to learn from these conversations as opposed to drama. And whoever wins this debate of the conversation about the debate, they'll win. Maybe we'll put a poll out, maybe we won't. We'll see. Okay, I want to welcome Jake and Rob and Uncle Tom to the space, and anybody else who wants to request, do so. Jake, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you very much for having me, Suleiman. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. What do you want me to do first, Sully? This is my first time doing a X space like this.
Yeah, let me ask you a question immediately. Let's get into it. So give us your analysis of, just to clarify, just give me your analysis of the debate. There was a debate between Andrew Wilson and Candace Owens. How did you see this? How did you see the debate? How did you see it go? What's your thoughts and perspectives on it?
I thought that it was kind of obvious. Anybody who is watching who has an understanding of what we were actually trying to get to the bottom of, what the debate actually was about, will understand that Andrew won the debate because the debate was about who can provide better evidence for their side of things. Now, Andrew said that he was overwhelmingly convinced that Tyler Robinson is the shooter of Charlie Kirk, and he said that he was between 75 and 85% sure, and that overwhelming would just mean that he's very convinced by it. And then Candace's case to make was that she was overwhelmingly convinced that he was a patsy set up by the federal government. And then they had to both provide evidence for those claims. Candace Owens didn't provide any evidence, whereas Andrew was able to at least provide evidence that the state has a pretty strong case. So I think anybody who was watching with any sort of sober, rational mind could realize that his position was stronger and that her position was basically all on vibes and intuitions and feels.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I presume Uncle Tom is on the other side, because I did see you host a space before on this. So just to give, in the interest of balance, just to give somebody from the other perspective. Uncle Tom, thanks for joining us. Hope you're doing well. What's your thoughts about and analysis about how the debate went?
Hey, yeah, I appreciate you having me. Yeah, so as far as the debate overall, I mean, it was what, 4 hours. It would have made sense to, given all the material, everything surrounding the case, seems like it would have made sense that you have more than one debate. So I think, in addition to that, Candace was on the hot seat, I think, during this. So, given that she was on the hot seat, uh, well, yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I just think that there just needed to be more. There just needed to be. It just wasn't enough. There just really wasn't enough of the evidence to that was gone through. So, because the way Andrew explained it was that there was a when you want to try to make your argument or try to form a conclusion, you need to look at the evidence in totality, and that wasn't. I think the audience at large understands the totality of the state's evidence because that's looked at, that you can just turn on CNN if you want to see that. As far as the evidence in totality for the alternative theories, that's a little bit more difficult to discover. Could even be, you could even argue it's suppressed. And so because of that, uh, it needed to, I don't think Andrew really allowed for that, or the amount of time that they had didn't allow for that. So there was problems right out of the gate as far as PPD. He didn't, he really wasn't. He was more focused on the production side of the debate, more, in my opinion, just more so than actually focusing on what was being said. So that was hindering too. But yeah, you can jump in.
Yeah, to just clarify your position, you don't feel like anyone kind of won. You felt like the debate wasn't well managed and moderated. Is kind of what I'm getting from you, right?
Yeah, well, as far as picking winners and losers, we'd have to define that a lot. I see this conversation happening a lot as far as who won, who lost, but we know this is subjective, and so you have to define what it means to win and lose. Now, right? I mean, what I would point to is uh, Andrew put himself at a disadvantage because he started off in his opening statement talking about dreams, things like this, dreams, and whatever else he said that was kind of making fun of Candace, and it didn't land because you would have to be privy to this inside joke, right? And so most people probably weren't privy to that, and so it was just it didn't land. It didn't work in his favor. He gambled on a few things that didn't work out, and it didn't make him paint him in the best light. And so you're going to have people say that he lost because of this as well. So I will stop there.
Thanks for that, Uncle Tom. Rob, thanks for joining us. Hope you're doing well. I believe you're Jake's co-host, if I'm not wrong.
What?
Give us your thoughts about your analysis of the debate. How do you think it went?
What the hell is even that?
Yeah, can you guys hear me all right? I've never done a space on the. Okay, thank you. So, the topic. I thought I was the fact checker for Andrew Wilson. So I was the one behind the computer. So I'll just give you a little insight. I thought Candace's team was incredibly accommodating. I have no problems with anything like that. And PBD screwed up a little bit on some various ways, but ultimately I thought he was fine. The actual topic of this debate was something that was litigated tremendously before we went in. Basically, Andrew Wilson is coming from the side that so many of us are, which think that Candace Owens is perfectly within her rights.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
But all of you that think, wait a minute, I have questions, I have reasonable doubt, etc., with the state's case, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Where we take umbrage is when you're saying specific theories that are impugning specific people that are basically doing three things. One, it is helping the left tremendously in the middle of this election season.
You can hear me
and
okay?
So someone
You can
like
hear me
me who
okay?
wants to
A little
defeat
bit
the
quiet,
left,
I know, but
I don't
what can
care
you
for
do?
that. The same with Andrew Wilson. Second, it's attacking our the online conservative space. Many people moved online because they thought mainstream media was like foolish and outlandish, and we had credibility on the online right space. And now this is like QAnon 2.0, and it's damaging our credibility. The third thing is that it's specifically going after people that we would otherwise say are victims, such as Erica Kirk or Charlie Kirk's organization and friends, that are being impugned as being complicit or covering up or engaging in this murder, which is all fine to ask questions. But if you're going to make those comments, those are outrageous comments and outrageous theories that demand huge amounts of evidence. But the problem is, in many of these spaces or other places, the people making those claims never, ever, ever want to defend those claims. Uncle Tom says he thinks there should be a second debate. It costs $300,000 to get the first one. I don't know if anyone's pockets are big enough, but I would happily have a 12-hour debate with Candace, or Andrew, I'm sure, would be happy to debate her again. She's the one, along with the rest of her side, that refuse, except at great expense, to actually debate their theories. And so Andrew wanted to get in the room to have her say, one question, can you give us evidence for any of your outlandish theories? Now, she insisted that actually Andrew must defend the state's case and must defend its overwhelming, etc. And so after much teeth pulling, the prompt that was agreed upon was, one, there is overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, which Andrew was going to defend. And two, there is overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson is a patsy and didn't kill Charlie Kirk. Now, what I view the debate as is Andrew just wanted to get to asking her questions about her theories. And because of that, and I agree with Tom on this, there was limited time. Andrew only had about an hour or an hour and a half of speaking time to defend the state's theories. He let Candace attack it in any way she wanted. He answered those attacks, but he made affirmative claims in his opening statement and elsewhere. There is evidence. There's the physical evidence of the rifle. There's the ballistics evidence. There's the witness testimony. There are the litany of confessions. All of these point in the same direction. Could Andrew have done a better job defending that? Sure. But he ultimately did pretty good, given that Candace's attacks were just things like, well, I'm not convinced. It could have been a 30-6. Well, isn't it possible that Lance Twiggs wrote those messages? And, oh, this is all hearsay anyways. None of that would matter in the context of who is providing more evidence. You could say that you have reasonable doubt. After all, this point of the debate wasn't to determine whether there's reasonable doubt. No one cares. At this point, if you have reasonable doubt, the state hasn't even attempted to prove that it's beyond a reasonable doubt yet. They just proved probable cause, which anyone who's reasonable could see there is probable cause. The problem is the debate was who has more evidence for their theory. Uncle Tom says, well, the state already had their theory and blah, blah, blah. Andrew at least provided evidence. I challenge anyone on this space or anyone that's listening to this or furthermore is on social media. Name me one piece of positive evidence Candace Owens provided for her claim, quote, there is overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson was set up as a patsy by the feds. I didn't hear any evidence whatsoever. She's just like, well, it's plausible. Maybe they made these messages of Tyler Robinson. Well, all she did was walk back stuff. Well, I said Israeli cell phones, but they could have been students. And when I said Erica Kirk was complicit, I just meant she's complicit in being complicit. And she kept saying, watch my show. That's what you have to do. The last thing I'll say real quick, because I know other people want to speak. It's laughable for Uncle Tom to say, well, there wasn't enough time. To my estimation, and what most people have said, Candace Owens spoke almost 2-1 for Andrew. Andrew's entire strategy was the bold supermaster debate strategy of saying, Candace, you said Israel did it. Do you have any evidence? And then listen to her ramble and not provide evidence. And then, Candace, you said the French Foreign Legion did it. Do you have any evidence? And listen to her ramble. She had all the time in the world to give any evidence.
Speaking of rambling, you're kind of doing it now.
Wait, Uncle Tom, let him finish, please. I don't want people to interrupt each other. I want him to finish his point, and then I'll come to you.
You talk longer than me, so I'll finish real quick and just say this. So if you evaluate the debate based on what the topic was, which is which side provided more evidence, Andrew provided evidence that it was weakly challenged against by Candace. Candace provided no evidence to her claim that, quote, it is overwhelming that Tyler Robinson was set up as a patsy by the feds. I challenge anyone to tell me the evidence she provided.
So, Rob, just a quick question, because you were the fact checker at Candace's house. So, I mean, before we get into, because I do know Joe is here, Dr. Tusa, a few others are on the other side on this as well. And Joe knows the case really well, so I think we will have a very good conversation on this. But the question to you is, which, again, a lot of people are asking is, Andrew Wilson's, what I mean by this, let me put this in the right way, that you basically have it where this case has been ongoing for a while now. Andrew Wilson kind of talked about it a little bit on the start, but not really that much. But now he's become kind of like the number one advocate for the kind of TPUSA position. And this kind of aligns with, him going to TPUSA. And so you talk about credibility. Some people say that, well, look, no one really saw him as a credible debater, but basically as a tool for TPUSA. What's your response to that?
I think two things. Yeah, I'll say two things on this, Greg. I actually went down with the.
I gotta reset my mic, Suleiman. I'll be right back.
No problem. Go ahead.
I actually went down to Turning Point with Andrew. We went down to be debate coaches. That's what we did. We coached their debaters, right? I think the reason that Andrew started talking about this more was two things. One, I think he saw how devastated the people at Turning Point was based on the accusation that was being said to them, including people like Erica Kirk. Full disclosure, I met Erica for like 5 seconds. I shook her hand and said hi. That was it. Andrew did have a longer conversation with her, and I think she looked pretty devastated. That's all I'll say about that.
Good to see the illiterate Shannon Knoll in the chat here, guys. Aussies will know what I'm talking about.
A combination of two things were happening. All of a sudden, like Candace Owens is on Sean Ryan and she's on some other
Aussies
things.
Will know.
And we knew that the pretrial hearing was coming up. So this became the big news story. Everybody was talking about this on X. Normally, I talked about this case only because people that were Candace fans came on my channel and were like, what about the Egyptian planes? I had no umbrage with Candace. I'm like, cool, what's the theory? And they would just be like, well, there were these Egyptian planes. And I was like, oh, okay, what's that mean? What's the theory? Well, we don't know. We just think it's odd. And I was like, oh, well, what's the theory? You have to have like a linear theory. Well, we don't know. And so it just spiraled further and further, where even people that are critical of Israel, such as Nick Fuentes, is like, what are you fools doing? You're saying that Israel is responsible for literally everything under the sun. You people are harming the cause. And ultimately, that's why I think Andrew's put so much into this at this point. Is it because it's really about protecting Turning Point as much as it is these people are the biggest allies of the left? Hassan Piker's out there today saying, well, I actually believe Tyler Robinson did it, but thank you so much, Candace Owens, for fracturing the right. And that's exactly what the net of this is going to be.
So, Rob, based on what you're saying, because the second point, I mean, I would say the Charlie Kirk case was a lot more bigger and viral at the start than it was now. Less people were talking about it at this point. I think maybe Andrew's debates probably brought it more back into the ether than anything
Mr.
else.
Jason Cassell,
you're saying that basically by him going to TPUSA, that basically, and seeing people in TPUSA, that made him kind of change his perspective and try and go harder.
No, I don't think so. I think he had the same perspective. I think he had the same
sorry. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I don't mean change the perspective. Change the perspective on going hard about this issue.
Can I come in on this one? I can actually provide some insight.
I'll be 5 seconds. I'll say, no, it didn't change his perspective. I think that once he saw how humans were negatively affected and he saw that you're just flat out wrong, that it was being talked about more. I think after the Sean Ryan and when the hearing was going on is at least when I saw it being talked about most as the biggest story in the world. And we're literally on the cusp of an election where if Democrats win, they're probably going to pack the courts if they get an opportunity, and winning in 2026 is going to put them on that path in 2028. And so we're fighting back against the biggest ally of the left, which is all the people that are on here today claiming to be right-wingers, parroting the Act Blue talking points that Hassan is so thankful for.
Jake, you wanted to add something? Because it seems like what Rob is saying is that by going to TPUSA and seeing the impact that this has had, Andrew was like, look, I'm going to champion this cause. Do you want to add anything on that?
That is not what I'm saying whatsoever. You're putting words in my mouth, but I'm not.
Well, he mentioned Suleiman. He mentioned my name a couple of times in there. I do want
no. Let me just quickly jump in on that, because that's not what Rob's saying. I think that it's become more of a serious issue, that's for sure. But there's like literally hours and hours and hours worth of evidence that you can go back and look at. So Andrew and I have a show called The Extravaganza or that we were running all through the Charlie Kirk assassination, all after it. And I was actually much more on the side that I thought that the Candace and those theories might have legs for a little while. And we actually debated this a fair few times where I was like, yeah, what about this theory? What about that theory? And he said, no, there's no evidence for it. There's no evidence for it. There's no evidence for it. And you can go back and look at all of those episodes literally from after the case. So he's always had the same position about this. And I can provide links if you guys would like at some stage, or I can post them on X, or I can post them to your DMs, whatever you'd like, Suleiman. But also, in terms of him not being a credible debater regarding this, can I just get some clarification what you meant by that?
I didn't say that.
Oh, you said that he wasn't at the start. When you asked the question, he said that he wasn't a credible voice.
Oh, okay. So what I mean by that is, okay, let me clarify. So what I mean by that is, because as even by the way Rob's described it, so you're right, I remember him doing a video, I think I did one as well, about Ian Carroll's kind of video trying to break down what he said was evidence, which I thought was very weak, and obviously so did Andrew Wilson. But that being said, largely speaking, Rob just basically made the argument that, and I know he sent in, but people can listen to it, that by going to TPUSA, seeing the impact on it, kind of made him become a lot more vocal about this. And so the point here is why some people are questioning credibility, and I do want your response on this, and then I want to bring Joy in.
I question, just to be quick, can I question your credibility? And everyone's here, just to be clear.
Sure, you can, no problem. But can I just ask Jake a question? Sure. Now you keep interrupting. So okay. So the reason people ask the question, I don't know why he's being emotional there, Rob. So the reason people are asking the question about credibility is that you basically have it where he goes to TPUSA, which is, he goes to TPUSA. TPUSA quite clearly is on the other side. They've been asked for a debate. They've not really done the debate. And then kind of Andrew Wilson, after visiting them, becomes the kind of champion of their cause. That's the perspective a lot of people have. So I'm saying then his credibility is impacted because it's not it doesn't seem like it's something that happened as
I can answer this. I mean, the answer just simply is that people are just uneducated about it, and that's all that it really is. It's you can go back and look at all of the episodes that he did about this, where we're talking about it. He was, very, very much against all of the Candace Owens conspiracy theories. But then when he went to TPUSA, obviously this starts a big drama and conspiracy online. This is when the sort of normies who never really look into these things start to get a hold of it, and then they start mischaracterizing his position, and that's whenever it comes to like it comes to the attention of people who weren't like hitherto watching what he was saying, but now they're paying attention to what he's saying. Before that, he was just as outspoken about those conspiracy theories. We even had a long debate, me and him, about the Brigitte Macron conspiracy theory. I thought that Brigitte Macron had a dick and he didn't, and we had this long debate about it. So it's something that he's been talking about for a very long time, but it just brought it into the public consciousness more.
Can I just speak really quick? I just want to say,
can you not interrupt him? I want him to finish his thought.
Yeah. So basically, he's been going against this for a very long time. But I think that a lot of the people who don't really follow his work, or who never followed our show, for example, would then look at that and say, well, he's just flipped his attitude. He never flipped his attitude. He was always willing to do the debate on it, and but it just came into the public consciousness more when he went to TPUSA.
Fair enough. Joe, I want to bring you in the conversation, and I know you have the other perspective. You believe Candace Owens won this debate. So if you want to give people kind of your position on how you thought the debate went, why you think Candace Owens won it, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Thanks, Simon. Look, I'm glad that now we know why $300,000 was spent. Apparently, it's because they believe that Candace is fracturing the right, which I think is a false premise, to be honest, because the right got fractured because of this war. And if you look at the Democratic Socialists who are winning, they are winning because they're opposing the war, not because they're opposing the narrative of the Charlie Kirk case. So I think even your target is wrong if this is what you were trying to accomplish. Then also the positioning of what was the debate about. I've heard for the past 24 hours, multiple people say this was about what Rob said, that who has stronger evidence. But when I watched the debate, that's not what I was thinking when I watched the debate. I can't hold a civilian up to the same standard as the state, right? She does not have the capability to subpoena evidence in order to make a case the way the government can. on top of that, it was said that he presented
So she
more
doesn't have any
evidence than her. I don't know. It depends on how you look at that evidence, right? What he showed was a text message. Kansas during that show didn't show anything, but her whole timeline is full of evidence. Regardless if that evidence points to something or doesn't point to something, it's still evidence. Can she conclude that evidence? Can she subpoena people information? No. So why would you hold her to a higher standard than you hold the actual government? Then when the whole debate even started, he said 75 to 85%. If he was the jury, he should not give a conviction for the person because that's not beyond a reasonable doubt. So even himself is not convinced that he did it. Where I've heard many people in states that say, I'm 90, I'm 99.9. We had someone up here yesterday, someone said 99.9. He's not even there, right? So we can see that the whole point of this debate was simply that let's make this look like a crazy lady because she's fracturing the right, which I think that premise is wrong. The right was already fractured because of Iran. And even if you were a fan of Charlie was against the Iran war. And I read out his tweet from April of 2025, which basically said, going to Iran will be a quagmire. We are low on missiles and it will create a deficit in America and a financial calamity. That's Charlie Kirk's position, right? And that's what's happening. That's what's fracturing the right. It's not Candace Owens. So I think you just wasted $300,000. And I hope Andrew goes back to debating Hooter waitresses because I believe that's where he belongs.
Okay, Joe, a quick question to you. Why do you think Candace won the debate, though, specifically?
I think she won the debate. If you look at the evidence, as they're saying, if you look at all the evidence that Candace has presented, okay, I'm not talking about during the debate. I'm talking about during this whole entire time. Okay, let's stick to what's on the debate. There's 4 prints, not 5. There's 4 prints on the trigger or the trigger guard. Right, the most degraded is Tyler Robinson's. That shows that more than likely he wasn't the last person to pull the trigger. Then there's dust in the barrel, which the other side will say, when you fire a weapon, does it get more dirty or cleaner? It gets more dirty, but the difference between debris, dust, and the fact that it was wrapped in a towel, okay, changes things. Then the other evidence, we know, like for the Israel claim, and I'm not even one of those guys that think it's Israel, but TPUSA was the most pro-Israel, Jewish money, Zionist money, AIPAC donor, funded Christian organization in all of America. Actually, it is the only Christian organization besides the Christians for Israel organization that have Israeli money in it. Okay. Then in mid-August, Charlie Kirk tells a friend that he's worried for his life, and Harrison shares that. Then he's invited to go to Israel and denies to Netanyahu to go to Israel. He is called into a meeting in the Hamptons. After that meeting, he then tells Megyn Kelly how he's being attacked, which Erica Kirk denied, and then Megyn Kelly confirmed it after Erica Kirk denied it. Then, the day before his murder, which is a week and a half later, there is a condolence letter from the head rabbi of Israel, dated the day before and stamped. Then the very next day, he's killed, right? So that is evidence, regardless if you think it points to Israel or not, that is evidence Candace presented. And I can go down 1,000 other routes, right?
Well,
that actually she presented evidence. But I'm saying, when you look at evidence and what she stated during that thing, I don't think even by Andrew Wilson's own claims that he's 75%, that he's convinced that it's higher.
Thanks, Joe. So guys, first of all, I do like the fact that people are talking because I do want people to really weed out their points and positions. That being said, we don't want it to be too short, but then we don't want it to be too long as well, because then it ends up being like each person's doing like 5-minute monologues. And that's not due to you, Joe. I think every single person who's spoken for a while up to now. So if we can make it slightly bit more concise, that way we can get the back and forth going. Dr. Tusa, was there anything you wanted to add? Because now I want to get into the specifics of the debate with Jake, Rob, Joe, Blake, and yourself, and Uncle Tom, and the rest of the panel.
Honestly, I second everything that Joe was saying. Totally in agreement. And there are a lot of gaps in the prosecution's conducting this trial, and the evidences put forth, etc., such as not interviewing direct witnesses from the scene, the students at the college, that other older guy who said I did it. The videos aren't really clear. A lot of the questions that Candace was asking are really legitimate, and obviously she's just putting forth some ideas and facts and cracks in the whole story, but it's not up to her, like Joe was saying, to prove anything or disprove anything. That's the job of the prosecution and the district attorneys, etc. And the reason there is a crack in the right, it's because Trump had a 180 turn on every policy that he said he would do after he was elected. So it's not because of Candace. And I landed there.
Appreciate it. Okay, Jake or Rob, by the way, whichever one of you guys wants to jump in on this, all good, no problem, because I want to get into the specifics of the debate. So the first element of the debate was that, Andrew Wilson was attempting to prove that there was overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson was the shooter. What's your, and there was a few key things that he mentioned, and then I want you to also address Joe's point about the 75-85%. The other, and then do add to this as well, because this might not be an exhaustive list. Andrew Wilson mentioned the text messages. He mentioned the visual, the CCTV camera, which he said was evidence that this was Tyler Robinson. What's your thoughts about the, first of all, individual evidences which demonstrate that point, and B, how well do you think Andrew did in order to kind of cover those issues? And you had Joe saying that, look, by saying 75 to 85%, you're already conceding that beyond, it's not Tyler Robinson beyond reasonable doubt. So what's your answer to all those?
All right. First, let me just say, to respond to both the doctor and Joe. First, I do thank everyone for being here.
I'm going to let Rob take this one.
The most important thing that we heard there was, quote, he provided no evidence in the debate. Yes, you heard that right. Joa admitted, quote, she provided no evidence. And the doctor said, I second everything he just said. Then he proceeded to give a laundry list of things Candace has said on her show that he thinks is correct. Nothing that was debated in this debate. So in other words, what he's saying is, I had a preconceived notion that Candace was right. And even though she presented no evidence in the debate, I still think she won because I just agreed with Candace when I walked in. Thank you. I appreciate the admission. You are correct. Candace Owens presented no evidence at all for her theory that there's overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson was set up. Secondly, when it comes to this issue of fracturing, which is important, I think there are things Trump done that hasn't perfect. He hasn't gone 180 against every promise. He promised that he would secure the border. He did that. You might not like the amount of deportations, but there you go. There's proof he didn't go 180 against everything. So what we see is there are people on the right, like Candace, that are furthering fracturing the right. Do I think they'll be the most important reason if Republicans lose? No. I think the failures of Trump and Republicans largely are more to blame. But it doesn't help when you have even people like Hassan Piker going, thank you so much, Candace. You're really doing yeoman's work, fracturing the right for us. And it's working for so many people that are going to cede power to the Democrats. This claim of 75%, I'll hit that really quick. That's because it wasn't the point of Andrew Wilson to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Tyler Robinson did this. And here's the best part. Neither is it on the burden of the state to this point. All they had to do was prove probable cause. There is tons of evidence that the state has claimed in official filings that they have, such as cell phone data from things like Google Maps that prove location, that they haven't released yet. And the reason they haven't released it yet is because they don't need to yet. The defense had every incentive in the world to try to get this case thrown out by talking about literally any one of the theories that Candace has talked about. For example, they could say, look, this photo stretched out shows it wasn't Tyler Robinson. They didn't do that. They could say Tyler Robinson's parents never actually said all this stuff. The family friend lied about it all. They never talked to Tyler Robinson and said, that looks like you. And he said, I'm going to end my life, and implied he did it. They didn't. They could have said, it's clear that Lance Twiggs was the one who wrote the Discord messages. They didn't do that. They said none of these theories that Candace is talking about. Andrew is well within his rights to say 75 to 80% because he's not hyperbolic. When he said that there's overwhelming evidence, he means at this point in a trial, before we get to the trial, normally it's a grand jury, and sometimes it's in like Utah where we have these probable cause hearings. What we have at this point in almost every other murder trial is far less than what we know about Tyler Robinson. And the evidence is compelling and almost overwhelming. I would say it is overwhelming at this point. I, just like Andrew, admit, once the defense has the chance to provide their case to defend against reasonable doubt that there's reasonable doubt, maybe they'll be able to do it. And maybe I'll say, in my opinion, I think there's reasonable doubt. I don't think he should be convicted. That's entirely possible. Same is true of Andrew, who admitted that. On the other hand, Candace said 0% chance Tyler Robinson did this. That means that's not ambiguous. That means there is no evidence ever that could be presented that will convince her Tyler Robinson did it. If Tyler Robinson confesses, won't matter. If the steakhouse come back and says that wasn't his receipt, it won't matter to Candace. If Tyler's parents come out and say, yep, everything that was alleged that he told us absolutely was said, it won't matter. And so the person, Candace, gets rewarded for being hyperbolic and saying, actually, it's 0%. That's nonsense. He made the case. He did talk about things like that in his opening statement. He talked about the witness testimony. He talked about the confessions. He talked about the ballistics, etc. Candace barely brought up no evidence against the case. She was like, well, it's hearsay. She's not right about that. The written confessions aren't hearsay. That's not hearsay. And hearsay still allowed. Remember, Candace is making the affirmative claim that there is more evidence that Tyler Robinson set up as a patsy. You might say, well, I don't think they should be allowed to use this evidence in trial because it's a hearsay. But she listens to hearsay all the time. With her theories, some anonymous source told me they heard X. She accepts that. So why is she unwilling to accept the state when they're saying Tyler Robinson's lover told us this? Tyler Robinson's parents said this. She completely rejects it. My point is this. It's perfectly reasonable at this point, before the state tried to provide evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, to still have a reasonable doubt. No one blames you. I still have reasonable doubt. But the evidence at this point is overwhelming. And Candace is claiming it's overwhelming that actually he's a patsy by the feds. And as our opposition here, Joa, and his partner admitted, she provided exactly zero evidence for that during the debate.
Solomon, can I just correct, because he's reframing what I'm saying. What I'm saying
Yeah,
is,
Joa, go ahead, Joa.
She didn't have to provide evidence because when she brought it up, Andrew conceded, right? So she never actually had to show, for example, the ATF report from the court. So she didn't have to show it because Andrew would say, okay, even if that's true, and she would say, but it is true. She said it. And he's like, okay, but I'll concede. So every time she brought up evidence, Andrew conceded. So she didn't have to show proof. So don't try to rework, because I don't even believe all her theories. Number one, I'm 40-60, 40% he didn't do, 60% he did. So don't also try to make it seem like I agree with everything Candace says. That's also not true, right? So trying to frame it as she didn't have to present anything because Andrew conceded over and over and over again.
That's not true. One, two things real quick. When he would concede, he would say, even if that's true, that doesn't prove that it's evidence against the state's case in this sense. And he would provide the explanation. And second, just to prove the point, can you give me one piece of evidence she proved for her burden of the topic? And I'm quoting now, there is overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson was a patsy set up by the feds. Give me the evidence that you're claiming she had.
Rob, we're going to come to that one second, because I want to section this out, because I feel like it's too, it's a bit too scattergun. So I want to, if this is okay with everyone, I want to deal with specifically Andrew Wilson's position, which is that there's overwhelming evidence that it was Tyler Robinson, and then after that we'll deal with that. Is that okay with you guys? Or if you want to, we can do it scattergun, but I just feel like we're just not going to get anywhere if we just do it scattergun style. What do you think, Jake and Rob and Joa and Trillian and everybody else?
Yeah, just Suleiman, just lead the way. I was going to debate Rob at one point. I didn't realize he talked this much, though. This is crazy. But yeah, go ahead, Suleiman.
No, it's no problem. It's no problem. I like it when people elaborate on their position, but just if we can make it a bit more concise, because we'll never get through all the different points. But no problem. I like the fact that
can I just say this real quick, Suleiman? And I promise I'll be quiet.
Yeah.
Andrew didn't concede any points that showed the state's evidence isn't true. He would say, even if I accept that would be the case, it doesn't prove that this wasn't true any more than when Candace later concedes.
He literally
right,
did to the DNA, Rob. He literally said, I concede.
Please, let me finish. We can talk about degraded DNA any more than when Candace said, I concede that I was wrong, that Lance Twig's DNA was on the rifle. Does that mean she conceded she lost that portion of the debate? She said, I concede I was wrong. So that means she lost,
yeah,
right,
but she, because she was wrong about one thing, she conceded once. Andrew conceded like 5 times. If that's your standard, then he definitely lost.
He didn't concede.
He granted it. He granted it for the sake of debate.
Correct.
It's a different thing. Do you know what the difference is,
Joe?
Joe?
Yeah, but
that's what Joe
granting,
mentioned.
Granting the fact that it's there when something's a fact of the testimony from the ATF, which he didn't know, he pushed back against, and he's like, let me grant it. He's not granting. That is evidence. That is true. She brought up evidence. She didn't have to pull it up because Andrew would always say, I'll grant it.
So he granted it for the sake of debate. He granted it for the sake of debate, and then his argument here was I'm just going to finish the statement. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to finish the statement, and then you can respond. So he granted it for the sake of the debate, and then he says, well, even if we grant that, how do you get to the inference there that he is a patsy? So that was the line of questioning that was happening there. So she was saying that she was 0% convinced that Tyler Robinson was a patsy. 0%. So that would mean that it's more logically possible that every single pigeon in New York is secretly employed by the government, but none of them have ever been caught because they communicate exclusively through synchronized head movements. So, I mean, if she's 0% sure that Tyler Robinson pulled the trigger, she has to provide evidence for that. So even if you do grant that, if that's her primary piece of evidence that she's attacking, how would that logically infer that he is a patsy? That's what she had to get through there. And that's why, for the sake of debate, sometimes you have to grant these things.
Yeah, but Jake, first off, you can't grant something that's state evidence, right? It's state evidence. ATF officer said that. Okay,
but then it's the logical inference. It's the logical inference.
And she also brought up the fact that there's dust in the barrel. Right. And if it's his gun that's in the woods and it's not his DNA that was the last one to pull the trigger, which is what this is inferring, then he's a patsy. I mean, it's not that difficult. And I don't know why you guys harped on the fact that prove it's a patsy, prove it's a patsy. It's his gun that's left in the woods and it's not his DNA on the trigger. It's most degraded on the trigger. It's not hard to make the jump of why it's a patsy. That's why she said, I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. Because it's a ridiculous argument that couldn't prove, that's not evidence showing he could be a patsy. Does it have to be beyond a reasonable doubt? No, she's questioning the evidence, which she should, and so should you guys, which you yourself said you're not 100% convinced yet.
Okay.
Right. And then to add to that, Rob, you spoke a lot. To add to that, she did talk about the images, right? She went through Andrew's tweets that he's been tweeting. There was no images because he's appealing to some video images, Tyler getting out of this vehicle. So it's not conclusive that that's the vehicle. It's not conclusive that that's Tyler. If you have something, Rob and Jake, if you have images of Tyler between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. on UVU campus, please put that in the purple pill. We can take a look at it. But that is also going to be evidence that he is a patsy. That would be evidence if the person that all the influencers, she also mentioned this as evidence. She didn't go into great detail, but I can for you. K Interactive, allegedly, this company that will propagate this messaging, which included in that is Benny Johnson, Jack Posobiec, Libs of TikTok. So all your usual suspects, Talmud Tatum, all of them allegedly have this same messaging. And that can also, you can infer from that, like this propaganda campaign, you can infer that, hey, this may not be the guy that's pulled the trigger, because why is everybody all of a sudden saying this is the guy who did it? We've seen him in 4K. So she did mention this, but it was kind of like overlooked a little bit.
Okay, first off, can either of you provide me evidence that when someone is the overwhelming largest amount of DNA, if it's degraded, that means they weren't the last person to handle the gun? Can either of you provide me evidence of that?
Here, what I can tell you is that it's a family heirloom. Obviously, his DNA and prints are going to be on the gun. That doesn't prove. So by using Andrew's standard, then show me he pulled the trigger. Show me he shot the guy. You can't show that. You can't even infer that because he's obviously going to. And as a matter of fact, his DNA should be all over. If you put a gun by your ball sack, especially you, Rob, like you seem a little bit heavy set there, you're gonna get DNA all over this firearm. So it's between your thighs and shit. So obviously, it just alone being his firearm, he's going to have all of this on the gun. So I don't know why that's such a gotcha. I'm not sure why everybody's like looking at this like in this way.
Well, Tom, for someone that knows nothing, you awfully talk a lot. Also interested that you talk about my physique while talking about my balls. Wasn't really looking for a gay guy to come at my genitals here, but thanks so much for offering. Anyways, you'll notice that he didn't answer the question because anyone who looks into DNA knows that you will not find literature that says that if the DNA is more degraded, that proves they weren't the last person to handle the gun. Tom instead makes a second claim. His claim is, well, of course his DNA's on the gun. It's a family heirloom. Well, right, but we have all this evidence that's pointing in the direction of Tyler Robinson.
What it can just name it. Slow down, Rob. Rob, slow down,
Tom,
bro. What do you?
Please, you talked a lot. I know you're fascinated by my genitals. Please sit down. And
What's all the evidence
please,
though?
Tom,
You keep
please,
saying
be
all the
quiet.
evidence.
All right, Tom,
Be
Tom,
quiet.
let
I know
him
you're
finish his
obsessed with my
point.
genitals and you're really trying to get my pants. But please,
Okay.
calm down and listen. Now,
Okay, go ahead, Rob.
the state has made the
Brian
case that
Shapiro
all the
2.0
evidence-
over here.
The state made the case that all of the evidence points in the same direction. We have the confession of him 4 different times. So they had the confession. We had the statements from his parents saying that was one of those confessions saying they thought it looked like him. They called him. He said, no, it wasn't me. Then dad called him and he started crying and said, I'm going to end my life, and implied that he did it.
You don't have that evidence. You
do
have
have that evidence. We have the
no, you don't
prosecution.
have that evidence.
Please.
It's
Joa,
not
just
been
grant
presented
it.
to anyone.
Please,
Joa,
please.
grant it. Rob, we're granting it. I'll grant that he wrote all of that. Now show me he pulled the trigger.
Conceded. Thank you so much. So the way that this often happens is we can imagine the burden that they're setting up here when we have the photographic evidence that shows it was likely him, his confessions that shows it, people that know him saying that looks like him. We had other things such as the police noticing the plates on his car, both when they pulled into campus and when they tried to retrieve the gun. We have all this evidence that's all pointing in the same direction. Now, the burden that Tom would put here would be this. If we had video evidence of someone walking into a barber shop, and then we didn't have video evidence in there, but there were gunshots and someone died, and a gun's dropped on the floor, and the gun has the DNA of the guy we just saw in video evidence walk in, and that guy admitted, yeah, it was me. Tom would say, but wait a minute, there's more than one person's DNA on the gun, therefore we can't make an inference that he pulled the trigger. There was a famous case in the 80s where they convicted a man of murder who we didn't even have a body from. And the reason was, all we had was evidence that there was a shitload of blood that was found in his yard, and he had just rented a wood chipper. So they tested the blood and found that it was his wife's. They put 2 and 2 together, even though they didn't find a body, and were able to provide enough circumstantial evidence to convict him. When we have all of this evidence that's pointing in the same direction, of course, because there's other family members that handled this gun because it's a family heirloom, we're not expecting the father. We have no evidence to suspect him. We're not suspecting the grandfather. What it proves is that someone in one of those 5 prints put that gun there. Someone with Tyler Robinson's DNA in his house put the screwdriver there. Someone in Tyler Robinson's house put the towel there. We have overwhelming evidence that points to that person was Tyler Robinson. And what you all want to do is say, unless we see something in 4K of him pulling the trigger, we can't draw the inference that it was Tyler Robinson. That is absurd. That's never how these trials have worked.
Joe, Darkside, Trillion, or Uncle Tom, jump in. Anybody wants to respond? Because,
Well, in case he doesn't know, Amanda Knox was let go because of degraded DNA. So for him to say, show me a case where that's true. Well, one of the most famous cases of an American outside of America, which is Amanda Knox, she was found not guilty because of the degraded DNA, which came to overturn the fact that she was found guilty initially because of it. And when they finally got American DNA specialists on it and looked at it, she was let go. So you have just one. I can give you many of them, by the way. And then you also conflate that you have the messages. No, you don't have the messages. What you have is a charging doc, which is written by the prosecution that if anyone wants to go to an AI and say, is it common for a charging document to stretch the truth? It is very common for it to stretch the truth. And you don't have the actual messages. They were supposed to provide the data. The judge told them to provide the data, and they said they couldn't do it reasonably. Right? What does that mean? Why do they not have the metadata from the messages? The defense should have had it. They requested it, and they still don't have it. So for you to say that we have evidence of the messages, no, you don't. You have the prosecution's interpretation of the messages. I'm sorry.
That's not true.
Also, just quickly, let me just say with the Amanda Knox case, I think that it's like a false equivalence here, because with the Amanda Knox case, you also have a black man who fled out the window, who was with her in the house and who robbed the house, and then literally jumped out of the window. His DNA was all over the place, and then basically she got arrested because he said that he saw her. So it's a little bit different. You have another person with a criminal record on the scene who literally fled out the window, who had his DNA all over the place. So it's a little bit of a different case there.
Says that it sounds a lot more like Lance Twiggs would do it. His own family are saying that.
So they
his
feel
DNA
like
is also all over the place, but you're negating that.
And Tyler Robinson's family feels like
this isn't just Amanda Knox. You have David Butler in the UK. You have Lucas Anderson in California. There's multiple cases where degraded DNA actually found the person not guilty because of it.
Look, if the degraded DNA,
find me one case where that's true. I just named 3, and you guys can't concede that I was correct.
That's not what I said, and you misnamed things. Amanda Knox wasn't let go because of degraded DNA. Amanda Knox was let go because there was possible contamination of the DNA, and there was extremely low qualities of DNA. So I'll ask you a couple questions in rapid succession. 1, who had the highest amount of DNA on the rifle?
The rifle doesn't matter. Of course, it's going to be him. What's important is the trigger, Rob. The trigger is what's important. So don't conflate it.
Let me finish. Can you answer for the audience in case they don't know? According to the medical examiner, they said 1 in a trillion confidence that the highest DNA was, who was it?
On the gun, not the trigger. There's a difference.
Who was it?
No, on the trigger, it wasn't Tyler Robinson.
Why can't you just answer who it was?
Because it's his gun. It's a stupid question.
Who was
you
it?
think you have a got me, and it's not a got me. Okay, on the gun itself, itself, it is Tyler Robinson. On the trigger, he has the least of 5 people.
So what you can see is in Amanda Knox, there was almost none of her DNA. On the gun, it was actually overwhelming 1 in a trillion. He had the most DNA.
Not on the trigger.
Let me finish. Secondly, I didn't ask you name another case. I said, does the literature suggest, can you show me anywhere where the literature suggests that the person with the most degraded DNA wasn't the last person to touch the gun? Can you show me that? Can you show me? Because I'm reading the exact opposite from medical literature, that actually the status of the degradation of the DNA doesn't speak to who was the last person to touch the gun. So can you provide me evidence to the contrary?
Can I go subpoena the gun and run my own test, Rob? I mean, it's ridiculous standard.
No. That's not the question. It's not you need to subpoena the gun. It's a question of you're saying if the degradation was the most of Tyler Robinson, that proves he couldn't have been the last person to touch the gun. I'm telling you,
I didn't say it proves. I'm saying it could be, and you guys are saying it's positively
it could be
Tyler Robinson. When we're saying there's many things, you can't prove the bullet that was fired. You can't match the casing to the actual gun. The trigger doesn't have his the least degraded. The car witness, the woman across the street said it was actually an old guy that was bald that got out of the car, not Tyler Robinson. And his own roommate, his lover says
that's not what they do. They just gish gallop a bunch of different points. I mean, the thing is, you guys need to provide the debate. Look. Can we just bring it back for a second? Can we bring it back just for a second?
Jake. Let's hear from Jake.
Yeah.
Okay, guys,
look,
quiet 1 second.
I haven't spoken that much.
Apologies. Just everyone let one person go. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, I mean, we need to bring it back here because here's what the debate was about. Candace Owens had to provide overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson was a patsy who was set up by the federal government. That's what the debate was, okay? So she then said that she was 0% sure it was Tyler Robinson, and this was her big piece of evidence. What we've got here is all of these guys.
That's what you say the debate was. That's not the debate.
I'd just prefer it if you'd be quiet, if I'm totally honest. But basically,
I'm sure your side does.
Let's let Jake go. Let's let Jake go.
Let's just rein it in, fellas.
Let's just talking. Okay, I dropped him. Go ahead, Jake. Finish your point.
Yeah. So. So she had to provide overwhelming evidence that he was a patsy set up by the United States government. What we've got going on here is basically just a bunch of feels again. Rob is asking these guys, how can they provide this logical inference? How can they prove that even if there was degraded prints on the gun, that first of all, Tyler Robinson wasn't the last to handle it, and especially because his prints are the most prominent on the gun, how would you then infer that, first of all, he wasn't the last person to hold the gun or to pull the trigger? You can't actually infer that. It's a logical leap that doesn't make sense. And then beyond that, you then have to infer that he was a patsy, and then beyond that, you have to infer that he was a patsy set up by the federal government. And then beyond that, you have to prove that he was a patsy set up by the federal government beyond reasonable doubt. That's what the debate was about. So anything that you hear from these people trying to say how she won the debate when that was the claim that she had to substantiate is just absolutely ridiculous. And it just kind of shows how far we've fallen, to be honest. But go ahead, guys. Tell me how you feel.
So let me read out, which apparently I've been sent this by Trillian. I think this is from Andrew Wilson's team. This is specifically what the debate topics were. So claim 1 is there is overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson shot and killed Charlie Kirk. Claim 2, there is overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson did not kill Charlie Kirk and is being set up as a patsy. So those were the two claims.
By the government.
Who wants to respond?
By the federal government, yep.
It doesn't actually say that on here. So
it does not say by the
You
government.
made that up. Hold on, let me tell you.
Can I take a swing, Sully?
Let Trillian go. Let Trillian go.
I talked to Enigmatic for hours yesterday. This prompt is the most important thing here. First thing Andrew does is he overrides the word overwhelming with convincing or compelling or something like that. That's not what that word means. Overwhelming means beyond, meaning there's so much to convince me that you could take things off and I would still be convinced. They wanted a different prompt. They wanted the fact that there is more evidence to substantiate Tyler killed Charlie than that he is a patsy. They got this. The patsy argument that Candace had to defend actually put her at a severe disadvantage. It doesn't say set up as a patsy by the American government. You completely made that up. But as far as this prompt goes, think about it. The evidence that they're discussing is to support charges that the state has levied. They're going to collect evidence to those ends. They're not going to collect any kind of evidence. The way you can overwhelming evidence versus compelling evidence. Let's say I saw let's use Tom, right? Let's say Tom wears a particular set of shoe. I saw somebody rob a bank. The person had the exact same shoes. That is convincing evidence that it could have been Tom, right? It's convincing. It could have happened, but it's not overwhelming. The fact that Tom then provides an alibi of being in a different state at a different time is the same amount of evidence, but it's now overwhelming that he wasn't there. So the purpose of this whole patsy thing, just so everybody's on the same page, is that he was taken advantage of, tricked essentially, to be at that campus to catch this charge. The fact that people think that this is an impossibility, guns have been planted in plenty of cases. All right, so let's just get the actual prompt straight here. And there is a difference between compelling, overwhelming, more, right? These are all different things.
Yes, I agree.
Just quickly, if that is the case, with that wasn't a part of the prompt, then yeah, I apologize for that if it wasn't by the government.
I absolutely said.
I'm fine with saying the government, though. I mean, a patsy kind of does imply that. I would say
it does imply, but if that wasn't a part of the prompt, then I got that wrong.
Idiot.
Yeah.
A patsy is a useful idiot who got taken advantage of to be a scapegoat in a crime or anything else.
If I may, it is clear I accurately said what the prompt was, and I was absolutely correct, as we've now received from Suleiman, that came directly from the actual contract, that was what the prompt was. You saying that this puts her at a disadvantage, that was her claim. She originally, again, the purpose that Andrew wanted to do this debate was to get her to defend her wild theories. No one who makes these theories wants to defend it. She put as a precondition that Andrew had to defend that at one point he said the evidence was overwhelming. When he said that, he meant it was overwhelming at this point in a case. Before we even have the trial, we almost never have this much evidence being suggested of who's guilty at this point. That's what he was talking about. She insisted he defend the term overwhelming, seeing as how she has publicly said that the evidence is overwhelming that that he's been set up as a patsy by the feds. The question was, why shouldn't you have to defend that, is your theory. She agreed. You being upset that that puts her at a disadvantage, and she was incapable of even presenting one piece of evidence to suggest that, as was admitted by Joa, that she provided, and I quote, he said, she provided no evidence. I absolutely agree. We'll get to that portion of the debate in a minute. Now, to speak to this question of degradation, I'll ask Joa this question very quickly. We're going one by one on these issues. He says that she made a case about DNA degradation that Andrew granted by the ATF. What he was granting was, even if it was the most degraded, that doesn't prove that he didn't handle the gun or he wasn't the last person to handle the gun. I have two questions for you real quick, Joa. You said, well, it could be if it's degraded the most, he wasn't the last person. One, if his was the least degraded, could it be that he wasn't the last person to handle the gun?
Both could be true.
Right. So then what's even the point of bringing it up? The degradation of the DNA speaks nothing to
there's a point because there are previous case law which shows the person was let go because of it.
No,
that's
you're
why.
wrong. If the
Yes.
one case
No,
you
I'm not
cited
wrong. I just named four people that you said none exist, and I named the cases.
Just misstated
And on
the
top of it, you
Knox
keep
case.
saying I
You
said that
just-
she didn't have to present evidence. She didn't because Andrew conceded all the time. That's why she didn't have to present evidence.
What I'm saying is she presented no evidence to her claim, as you admit. You just say he conceded. He said, what's your evidence? She provided none for her portion of the topic.
She started to talk about it, and Andrew would just say, I concede that. I'll grant that. I'll grant that. I'll concede that.
He said, what's your evidence that Israel did it? And she said, well, let me give you the evidence. He said, I concede Israel did it. Can you show me what the timestamp was where he said that? Oh,
but why are you talking about one thing? You straw man like no one I've ever seen in my entire life. Honestly.
We're going to get to the portion where she had to defend that he was a patsy. You keep saying, well, he conceded all the points she made. She didn't make any points. Now, what I'm saying is,
she did. She talked about the DNA, talked about the barrel, talked about the messages, and he conceded all of them. All of them he granted.
That was her casting doubt on the state's evidence. That doesn't prove that the FBI is intentionally setting him up as a patsy. That's just saying, well, maybe there's reasonable doubt to his guilt. Now, the question I asked you was...
that's the way I took the debate.
You made the claim that the DNA being most degraded meant he wasn't the last person to handle the rifle. You now are forced to admit that's not the case. And now you're saying, you asked me for cases, I never did.
But that's not what I said. You keep putting words in my mouth, Rob.
It'll be much simpler, I promise. I'll sit
well,
here
it's not simple when you keep putting
words
words in people's mouths. That's the problem.
What you said. You're the one putting words in my mouth, and as I try to explain, I didn't say the words you're saying. You continue to interrupt. I never said show me cases. I said, can you show me, does the literature say if it's the most degraded, that means he wasn't the last person to handle? You concede now that that's not the case. You bring up other cases and say this was thrown out because of DNA degradation. That's not true. There were other factors such as contamination and such as there not being that much DNA.
You're familiar with all four cases I mentioned? Are you familiar with all four cases I mentioned? Rob, just answer this. I haven't asked you a single question. Are you familiar with all four cases I mentioned?
I'll have a look at the merch shop. Cheers, Josh.
No, I prevent you.
Exactly. So thank you. You're bullshitting on stage because you don't even know the cases.
But what about the case of Diaz v. Diaz, where it said that degradation is never a reason to throw out the case? Are you familiar with that case?
Yes, you have evidence both ways. I'm not familiar with that case, but you have evidence both ways. But you have cases which you said don't exist, and they do exist.
I never said cases don't exist. You're putting words in my mouth.
You did, and you just said that there's multiple factors of why these cases were let go, and then you admit you don't even know the cases.
You just
do you
admitted you don't know the
understand
case.
how much full of shit you are? Dude, you got to take your head out of your ass and pull the shit out of your ears. Because I don't get it. You literally just said you make stuff up.
So what he's doing is making cases up. He said the first case. I looked up the case. It turned out he was wrong. We will painstakingly go through the rest of the cases. He's going to argue that cases were thrown out because DNA degradation proved they couldn't be the last person to handle a weapon. So we're going to go through each of these cases. Show me the first case. Go ahead.
No, you're again restating. I said that people were found not guilty because of the degradation.
No, that means that they didn't have enough DNA that was compelling. There is no evidence whatsoever, as you've argued, in the medical literature that says that degraded DNA means that you weren't last person to handle the gun. You've acknowledged that. That's the important issue here. Saying that there were some cases that were thrown out because of
Rob,
problems
do you
with
understand
DNA,
the difference between handling a gun and pushing the trigger? Do you know the difference?
please.
I'd like to get other
I have a
people in here,
question.
by the way,
I
Rob,
have
and not
another
just be the
question.
Rob and Joe
You
show.
just
But
keep interrupting, so I can't get through my point. I have another question for you.
you asked me a
said
question, dude.
You said that he had the least evidence on the trigger. Can you prove that? Where did they say that?
The ATF officer said he had the most degraded DNA on the trigger.
That's a different claim. You said other people had more DNA on the trigger. Show me where they said that.
Well, if his is the most degraded, he has the least amount
Good night.
of DNA.
No, do you understand that degraded doesn't mean the least? They said he had the most by 1 in a trillion.
Good night.
Can you show me?
Do you understand? Do you understand the difference between a trigger and trigger? Rob, if I can speak without you spurging out.
Like being interrupted. It's a little frustrating, isn't it?
You asked me a question.
I'll interrupt 7 or 8 more times. Go ahead.
I think you and your team should go back to debating Hooter waitresses because it works out better for you guys. Because you can't even debate on Spaces.
I'll sit back and let you finish, but it's a little frustrating, isn't it? Go ahead.
Okay, he's really going to need a CPAP machine tonight. He's going to need
just matching your energy, fellas. Just matching your energy. That's all.
If you didn't scream like that.
Just matching your energy. All right, we don't care about how you feel about his voice, woman. Joe, answer the question.
It for you, okay?
Chill,
because you don't understand
Go ahead, Joe.
You don't understand that. There's a difference between a gun, DNA on a gun, and DNA on a trigger and trigger guard. The expert measured the trigger and trigger guard as one thing and the rest of gun. So when you say he has the majority of DNA on the gun, he does. That is correct. He does not have the majority of the DNA on the trigger and trigger guard.
Show me where they said
That's what you're lying about.
Show me where they said that.
Okay, I'll go look while Solomon goes to other people. I'll show you.
Good. And we're going to wait and put a pin in that, everyone. He's going to show that the ATF said he had the least amount of DNA on the trigger.
I'm going to show you that he said the most degraded on the trigger.
Degraded is different than saying had the least amount. Those are two different claims. You don't understand what degraded means. You already acknowledged being the most degraded.
My friend.
Just real quick, I wanted to jump in here and just address some things that were just factually wrong that were said earlier. One of the things that was factually wrong was stated that the cartridges themselves were not matched to the rifle. That's false. Those were actually tool matched to the rifle, the fired round. The other thing people keep talking about.
Post it, Paramount.
That's fine.
You're talking.
Just let him get through his point. It's the first time he's spoken.
I think it was the fragments that
let him get through his point, and then you can respond. You guys can't help yourself.
No. The cartridge itself, the metallic cartridge, was matched to the rifle. That is
Post
in the ATF
it because
report.
I know that doesn't exist.
I'll find it.
Post it.
It does exist. The other thing, as of March 26th, the defense filing seeking to continue the preliminary hearing, they have turned over all the metadata to the cell phone. So the defense has the cell phone data. I don't know why you guys keep saying they don't.
After the pretrial, after the preliminary.
April 1st. They had
March.
April 1st.
It was in March.
Yep.
It was in March.
And as a matter of fact,
at the very beginning of the preliminary hearing, the defense counsel asked for a update of all the information, all the evidence that's been handed over. The prosecution gets up there and says, we have turned over everything, 100% of everything that we have as of June 18th. But
that's
the
not
actual
what they
metadata,
stated.
that is what they stated. I have a video.
No.
I will post a video.
To a reasonable amount.
No,
You're
it's not what he said.
A very key phrase.
No,
yes, you are.
Hold on. You guys cannot get facts right at all. It's hilarious. It is hilarious. Like, you guys just omit facts, screw facts up, and I will post the ATF report. I'll have to find it real quick. But it did say the metallic cartridge itself was tool matched to the gun itself that fired that round. And by the way, let's go back to the DNA for a second. The trigger is the least touched thing on a gun. If I'm looking for DNA for somebody that I want to match to a rifle, I'm going to actually check the stock at the comb of the stock where a person's entire face touches that, as well as the handguard itself. You barely ever touch the trigger.
Stream Elements link is up, guys. If you want to text to speech, you can go through Stream Elements.
His DNA was found
pinned
on
in
that.
The chat.
He was the major contributor, and for some reason, you guys just keep omitting that information. And by the way, I'm going to post down in the comments the actual video of the defense the prosecution stating They have handed over 100% of all the evidence as of June
Yeah,
18th.
I mean,
And
that's
there you
fine.
What
go.
if the gun was
This is a
planted?
great
What if the
place.
gun
This
was
is well,
planted?
hold on,
Oh
doctor. This
dear,
is
doctor.
usually where they want to take the
Silence, woman.
conversation is to this firearm, knowing that this firearm would cause an exit wound. These
No, it wouldn't.
soft wrap. It says on
No,
the
it wouldn't.
box of the.
No, it
Wait,
wouldn't.
stop
I,
interrupting me. Stop
I mean, it
interrupting me.
wouldn't.
The box of these rounds, it says on the box that it's
Post
for
that.
moose. It's for
It's
moose,
not moose.
right? Yeah, it is. So this this
Uncle
this
Tom, Uncle
w-
Tom,
this would
you
would it
moron.
wo-
If you're gonna
would
say
it
that you're
take
just
that?
hunting moose with a
What
150
okay?
grain
How
soft
what is
tip,
the depth?
you're an
What is
idiot.
the depth
You're
they're
an
rated to
idiot.
penetrate?
150
What
grain
is the
soft tip
depth
is what you're
they're
gonna shoot.
rated to penetrate?
100,
What is the? Can you
150
just say
grain.
the depth?
You don't know it's
150 grain.
150 grain. You don't know it's
Well,
150 grain.
I know it's. I
You're
know.
making assumption. You're making an
Okay,
assumption
fine.
right now.
That is fine. That is
Oh,
fine.
caught in
But
a
you're
lie.
not going to
Caught in a
hunt moose
lie.
with a
Caught in a
Core-Lokt.
lie.
Yeah, these
No,
guys
Caught
keep
you're
in a
not going
getting
to
lie.
caught
hunt.
in lies and
Wait,
assumptions,
one
and then all
second,
of a
one
sudden
second,
hold Kansas to a different standard.
Joe, one second. There's just three people talking at the same time. So, what was your question to Paramount that he just conceded? Just repeat it again because all three of you are talking.
He was saying it's 150 grain, and he doesn't know it's
That's correct.
150 grain.
That's you were right in that I do not know it's 150 grain. I know it's not a 125 grain. It does not. It doesn't have the bullet length to be 180 grain, so it's going to be somewhere between 150 and 165. It is not. What it is not is 200 grain is which is what you're going to use. And by the way, you would not be using Core-Lokt to hunt moose because you want the most amount of penetration, and Core-Lokt is going to do the exact opposite of that. It's just crazy.
If I can, real quick,
I'm gonna give you a B minus, Gary. A B minus.
I presented. If you see
How else do
in
you
the
feel?
comments under this, if you go to my name, you can see I presented, which was the motion to the opposition filed by the state. It says facts. Charlie Kirk was shot and killed September 10th, 2025. Defendant Tyler Robinson was charged with Kirk's murder on September 16th. To date, the state's prosecutors have disclosed all evidence that is presently and reasonably available to them as required under Rule 16 Utah.
Presently and
Quote,
reasonably available. Thank you.
Quote, to be more precise.
Another lie that Tactical said.
Would you please be quiet? To be more precise, as of April 1st, 2026, counsel for the state had provided approximately 100% of discoverable material in its possession to the defense. In other words, the defense has what the state has. As much of this discovery was presented long ago. I quote, 100% of discoverable material. You were saying?
Yeah, I was saying, Rob, too reasonable, right? Which Paramount denied. That's in there. And they did not have the metadata.
What I'm denying,
I didn't ask you to overspeak
you
over
guys
me.
saying.
Well, let Joe finish his point, and then you can.
Yes, what was presented to the prosecution, there was evidence that was missing, that was not presented to either of them, that the FBI held. Do you understand? You have an Israeli company, which is Cellbrite, that is unlocking the phone, and all that information was not presented to them, and the defense complained about it. And you guys are saying, no, they have it. No, they didn't have it. They even requested it again, right?
No,
and they said, we presented all the
Andrea
evidence
Burkhart,
unreasonable.
Andrea Burkhart posted the exact moment, the exact entire thing, talking about that the defense has the Celebrate information and all the metadata. You guys keep saying that. I conceded just now that you're right. It's not, I don't know if it's 150 grain, but you guys can't concede anything. What you are sitting there saying is that they have not received the metadata, and they have. And you guys can't concede at all when you misspeak or say something wrong.
Exactly.
Paramount.
Just to be clear,
I mean, even
one second. Paramount. In terms of what you said, can you post the evidence of that? Because I'm not someone who follows the case. So have you got the evidence of that claim? Because that'll kind of clarify if you're right or they're right.
Yeah, he doesn't need to open his mic to post that. You don't need to unmute to post that. So just post it like the man said. So I just want to correct the record. So Remington Core-Lokt will penetrate an average 18 to 26 inches. Okay, so I just want to correct the record on that. These bullets will penetrate. It would definitely go through a neck. It's been tested. Chris Mortensen, I don't know if Suleiman, if you've looked at that, I can post that. Chris Mortensen testing. This has been tested. Yeah, Martinson. So yeah, 1,000. They've done 1,000. You can find 1,000 of these tests going through hockey pucks, frying pans, steel, like you name it. There's no way that, and it's designed to actually cavitate as well, create big wounds, and it would exit a human neck
I don't think you know what
easily.
cavitate means.
Hey, Gary,
first
how
of
many
all,
tests have you done?
Hold on.
Gary,
I
how
want to
many
respond
tests
to
have
this.
you done?
I want to
Zero?
respond to this. What I want to
None,
respond
right?
to is the fact that there are 4 different people that we have. We have real life examples of
I'm
people
staying
being
well
shot
and
with
truly
30
out of the
out
gun
6.
debate,
All
guys.
of
The
them were shot in the
ballistics debate, by the
spine.
way.
We don't have a single
This is
exit
there.
wound that
No,
transverses.
neck. No, we're talking about the
It
neck.
doesn't matter.
Gary.
It doesn't matter.
Post
It
the
doesn't
post
matter.
the neck. No, post
So
a
first of all-
single
so
example
first
of
of
the
all-
It
neck.
went through.
No.
It went through MLK's chin, and he keeps saying there's no
let
exit
me ask
wound,
a
which is
question,
ridiculous.
Paramount.
Well, there is no
Paramount.
exit wound
One
because
second.
It went
yes.
through his
Paramount.
chin. That is an exit wound, my friend.
Wait, 1 second. Let me ask Paramount a question, and then Paramount do add and elaborate on whatever you were going to say. Obviously, Chris Martinson, I like him a lot. I've had him on my show a number of times, not on this issue, but on the Iran war. And so he has done some practical tests on this. Have you done any practical tests? And if you have or haven't, if you can give us the information on that, and then do add in whatever you want to add, whatever you were going to say.
Sure. No, I'm not going to do any practical testing because what we have to do is actually replicate what we have, and not a single person doing backyard ballistics, including Chris Martin or anybody else, is going to be able
Your
to
own
replicate
examples
exactly.
don't replicate what you have, but you use
Wait,
those.
let him finish his point, please, and then
Hold on.
you can respond. Go ahead.
There's a big difference between shooting a bone, a solid bone, and actually a spine connected to a 220-pound man. Again, we have Martin Luther King, who was shot from 65 yards, the distance that Charlie Kirk was shot. It actually hit him in the mandible, then hit him in the vertebrae, deflected downward, did not exit. Then we have Chuck Ritter, who was shot from 25 yards away with 7.62 by 54. It is the ballistic equivalent, the Russian ballistic equivalent to 30-06. He was shot from 25 yards away. It went between his ribs, hit him in the spine, deflected downward, no exit, and he's still alive. Then we have Shane Hill, who was shot from approximately 40 to 60 yards away, hit him in the spine. He did die, no exit wound. So this idea that you're going to replicate by taking a 15 or 10 or 5-pound piece of meat and actually get the same physics that's involved with the different variables. And then not only that, you don't have a large enough sample size to even go with this. There are plenty of both.
Your 3-person sample size that are nothing like what happened to Charlie
what do you
are
have?
sufficient. I'm just saying,
do you have any sample sizes?
Do you have
Yeah, I just put it in the purple pill, Suleiman. I just put the testing in the purple pill.
Do you have a sample size of 1 where one person was shot in the neck and it went through and transversed and had an exit wound?
Here's the point: the probability.
No, you don't.
Right?
You don't
Let's
have
go
a point.
probability. You don't.
No, we just have the rating of the ammo. It
doesn't matter the rating of the
designed to penetrate 18
It doesn't matter.
to 26 plus inches.
And guess what? If you shoot it
if
you shoot it in Kevlar, it's not going to penetrate anything.
And
Just go by Paramount's
okay.
first
So
reaction
Charlie's
when he
neck's
said,
made out of
I don't
Kevlar.
understand why I wouldn't have exited. I mean, he said it himself before, and after he got his government contract, then he changed his opinion. But prior, he said there would be
That's
an
just
exit
ad hom, dude. Like
it's not ad hom.
First
That's
of all,
true.
it is ad hom.
That is a
No,
fact.
it's not. No,
How's that an
it's
ad hom?
not. It's not a fact. I have a long record of going through and looking at every piece of this and then actually going in and saying, you know what, I could be wrong with this. Let me go do a study. Let me actually research what happened with Martin Luther King. Let me go look at different medical reports and military reports when it
It
comes
exited
to 30-06.
Martin Luther King. Stop
No, it
poisoning the well. Yes, it did exit.
It's still in his body.
If I may,
did it leave his body?
Jump in here, please, Paramount.
Yes, it left his jaw. It exited. That's an exit.
And it went into his neck. And it went to his neck. And then
a couple things, please, Paramount. A couple things have been addressed. March 27, 2006, motion to vacate. Quote, more specifically, on March 13, 2026, the defense received approximately 12 terabytes of data with 6,425 folders and 613 and change thousand files. These includes extraction of mobile device, other digital evidence, and reports generated by forensic examiners. Of concern, the extractions of digital evidence appear to have been completed on September 2025. For example, the extraction of cellular telephone associated with Mr. Robinson was completed on September 13, 2025, 6 months before it was provided to his defense. So yes, they were provided the Celebrate data. Next, from the state's brief, on page 2, quote,
presenting a phone is not the same as presenting Celebrate data. Why do you keep conflating information, Rob?
You just said they never got the Celebrate data. You said
right,
that.
and that doesn't say
So
they got
wrong.
the Celebrate.
You were wrong. You admit you were
that
wrong?
doesn't say they got the Celebrate, Rob.
Yes,
do you understand the difference?
It says they got the forensic extraction that the state had, which included 12 terabytes of data, which was 613,023 files, including the extractions of mobile device. So they add this information. Second, it comes to the state brief, page 2. It says, quote, the medical examiner concluded the manner of death to be homicide. State's evidence 11. At 1, a forensic examination conducted by the ATF revealed that the bullet that killed Mr. Kirk was a .30 caliber class round. It created a complex entrance gunshot wound. I just want to get you on record. That is what the official examiner is saying, that it was a round from like a .30-06. Is it your claim that this person is lying and is in on the conspiracy?
He said it's a 30 cal. He cannot confirm it's a 30-06. You just inferred that once again.
Just to be clear, 30 cal would match with this type of gun at 30-06. You're all saying it's impossible for this type of bullet
I did not say it's impossible.
Okay, so
I just told you I'm 40-60.
What are we arguing about?
Everybody is saying
you're
it's just
inferring.
extremely unlikely.
You're inferring.
It's extremely low probability.
Is the medical examiner lying?
Nobody said that. See, it's amazing. You guys
so
don't want to talk about
acknowledge-
the debate
so
because
then
everything you're
please,
bringing up is
the
exactly
last
why
thing-
Andrew lost the debate.
And last thing I'll say real quick. So just to be clear, your argument is you all concede the medical examiner is telling the truth. This was around a .30 caliber bullet. You're just saying it's impossible
Myron's
or
in there.
almost unlikely to the point of incredulity to think it was a .30-06. You just assume it was another .30 caliber.
No, it's not. What, dude, you're not even on the prompt. Bro, take a breath. You're going to have a heart attack. Take a breath, bro. Stick to the prompt.
Brilliant.
Stick to the prompt.
What is the probability? What's
The
the probability,
prompt
Troy?
is that Tyler
Brilliant. What's the
Robinson
probability?
killed Charlie Kirk, and it's overwhelming.
Okay, what's the
The fact that
probability?
it was his gun and that it could have been a 30-06.
Okay, guys, too many. 1 second.
That's a lie.
One
That was
second.
not the
Rob,
prompt. You're
Rob,
lying.
Rob, 1 second.
He just read the prompt to you.
Rob,
Was that the prompt?
Rob, can you not hear me? You're over talking each other. 1 second. First of all, I want to welcome Myron onto the stage. Myron, hope you're doing well. But Rob, do you want to just succinctly state your statement because you're just shouting a lot, and I think you're coming across. Just put your point across because you're doing a good job. But I think you're just shouting. Go ahead, make your point.
That's how I talk, motherfucker, like Sam Jackson. Fair enough. The prompt wasn't. Just to be clear, the prompt wasn't just overwhelming evidence. The prompt was: is there overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk? And Candace's claim that there's overwhelming evidence that he was set up by a patsy. And so I noticed Trillion skips that part. What I'm saying is, it seems that now we're on the key point of, well, it couldn't have been a 30-06, or it's extremely unlikely it was a 30-06. The point I'm trying to make is quite simple. Unless you think the medical examiner's lying, she's saying a bullet, like a 30-06 bullet, around a 30 caliber bullet, killed Charlie Kirk. And I'm asking, it's either, if she's correct, then that would prove that this gun absolutely matches the caliber that would be necessary. And if you don't believe that, can you explain why she's lying?
Even Gary will admit to you that it could have been a different gun. Go ahead, tell them, Gary. Even you believe it could have been a different gun, right?
It could have been a ton of different guns. That's
okay, so it's not overwhelming.
Listen. No, you guys don't understand.
That's the only gun that's there.
But what you keep doing is talking about things that are plausible. For example, it could be plausible, i.e. theoretically possible, that aliens did this. It could be theoretically possible.
So you don't want to talk about the debate. You want to be silly. No, dude, this is a waste of everyone's time.
Please. It could be theoretically possible that another person with a Mauser, the exact same make and model of this, was situated slightly off camera on a different rooftop and did the shooting. All of that's theoretically possible. What we're saying is the evidence.
Can a 30 cal be fired from a different gun, Rob?
Let me
it's
finish.
ridiculous.
Please let me finish. What we're saying
it's a waste of time. It really.
You want won't let me finish. What we're saying is all the evidence points in the same direction. There's only one gun on scene. And it seems the people saying that this was a conspiracy are saying...
There was one gun on scene? Now you're lying. How many guns were there on scene, actually?
Well, a
How
whole
many?
bunch. The cops all had
Oh,
guns
so there was
as
a
well.
whole bunch of guns on scene. Wasn't another
any
one
of them
found
have
in
a
a
dirty
holster
count?
next to the Losi building? Wasn't there a separate gun found? Wasn't there?
Was there?
Yep,
Where was the separate gun?
Oh, look at
Kensington
that.
Russell. Kensington Russell had a
No,
firearm.
don't use that. Not him.
So, can I ask a question? 1 second. One second, Rob. Rob, can I just ask a question? So, how many guns were actually found on the first of all on the scene? Because I mean, for the audience, 'cause remember, a lot of you guys know this information, but others don't. How many guns were actually found? Can anybody answer that? Is there more than one? I'm presuming it's more than one based on your discussion, but how many?
Yeah, there's more than one. There was a handgun or a holster with a handgun in it found by Bagley. That's the man who discovers the perch on the top of the roof or the sniper
No,
nest.
that was not a gun. It was a holster. There was
Okay,
a holster
well,
found.
you have
It was not
other
a gun.
testimony that says it was a gun. No, I'm not lying. Just because Gary says something doesn't make it true. Calm down. It was a gun. It was a gun in a holster. All right,
It was not a gun.
And they found. Can you shut up for 2
you're
seconds?
lying now.
You're
You
lying.
started to go
You're the
on
most
us.
full of shit person here.
Okay,
And so,
okay, let him.
what about
Guys,
the
guys, there's
223?
too many people over talking. I just want to hear this, and then you can rebut his point. Go ahead.
There was a 223, an unfired 223 rifle cartridge found on a different rooftop. Is that true, Gary?
Is that a gun?
Was that true?
Is that a gun?
That is true. That's not a gun, and that's not
there
a
you
30
go.
caliber round.
The fact of the
There's
matter
not a
is
30
there were
caliber round.
many
It doesn't
guns
match
on
the
that
ballistics.
campus. It's an open carry campus. There's more than one gun. This is the problem that you guys have is the selectivity of evidence.
We're not
They have
saying that
only
there's guns
compiled
found that there
a
weren't.
set of evidence that gets to their conclusion that Tyler killed Charlie, and they don't want to. They're not interested in collecting anything else.
Okay, let me hear Rob's response on that. Go ahead, Rob.
Right, if I may. Now, what you'll hear him do is he made a claim that they didn't find a holster. They found a gun in a holster. That's news to me. I'd like him to provide proof of that because what I know is they found a holster and didn't say there was a gun in it. Then his next example of a gun found there was a bullet, a 223 bullet. Okay, that too is not a gun. So he's saying I was wrong when I was saying there was one gun found there. I'd like him to provide evidence. Yes, it's true that police officers and others had guns. What I'm saying, though, is all of the evidence points to one thing. It points to Tyler Robinson, the confession, the witnesses, the identification of the plate on his car, the physical evidence, all of it points in the same direction. And what they want to do is say, but hypothetically, couldn't it be that there was another 30 caliber weapon there that pulled the trigger? Yes, but there's no evidence of that. Everything points to the same direction. And the way they're doing this, we would never be able to convict anyone because they keep putting this burden of like, well, how could you draw the inference that his DNA on a gun that was capable of firing this shot did it unless we have high def evidence? And it doesn't matter that he said that it was him. It doesn't matter that his parents in the prosecution documents said the parents did it. It doesn't matter that his plate was seen there. None of that matters to these people. What I'm saying is we shouldn't evaluate. I promise, last sentence. We shouldn't evaluate seriously. Well, it could have been another gun that was there until we have evidence there was another gun there.
Rob, can I ask you a question? Rob, can I ask you a question on this? Let me ask him a question, then you can jump in.
Well,
and
Suleiman,
respond.
before you go, because he just smuggled something in there.
Well, let me just ask him a question,
The
and
wound
then
was a 30-06. No, it's not conclusive that the wound was 30-06. You
It was a
smuggled that
30
in.
caliber. It was a consistent.
No.
So actually, let me ask you a question. Let me ask Rob a question, and then Uncle Tom, you can respond to that and this point that you're referring to here, because I do think it's important to rebut the rebuttal that you want. So Rob, the question to you is, because I think for a lot of normies, this is the main point of contention. Do you know the 30-06 as a percentage? What would be the probability that when one uses a 30-06 that it does not have an exit wound?
So it's a difficult question, and let me explain why. Because the size and caliber is only one factor that we'll use in trying to guess what the damage would be. For example, the grain of the sort of gunpowder would be one. Whether or not it's a full metal jacket or a half jacket or a saw point bullet would be another thing. We would also require the distance that the shot occurred. We would also require the yaw of the shot or the degree angle. For example, studies show the more you get closer to 90 degrees, the less likely it is for the bullet to penetrate. So the truth is, it's hard to determine just by looking at a gun whether or not that bullet would go through because there's all these other factors. My guess is in a situation like this, if I had to put money on, I would guess that it would be a through and through. However, I think the percentage is probably like 20 to 30% of the time that it wouldn't exit. The point is, when if we look at the two competing theories, theory one, which is this was as it seems, theory two would have to be that this is a conspiracy and that the medical examiners are intentionally lying and they know it's not possible for this gun to do it. And the hospital people are lying and the campus security are lying and Tyler's security team's involved in it. And Tyler's parents know the truth, but they're not speaking up, et cetera, et cetera. So
I get it.
The preponderance of evidence suggests this is by far the most likely scenario.
And Uncle Tom, what's your response? Your two responses to that, and then let's get Darkside in the conversation.
Well, I mean, I think the most real-world study that we have right now, or testing that was done, was by your friend Chris, and he does have to concede after he's doing this testing that every single time, a total of 55 times, the Core-Lokt 150 grain does go through and through each time. And so he states here the problem is that with the official narrative has wielded itself to shooting a location that requires us to once again believe it's in a magic bullet. If anybody can show how a 6 inches of soft tissue can stop a bullet, 2,200 foot-pounds of energy that's designed for maximum penetration, which in ballistic gel, 18 to 22 inches, 3 times the diameter of a human neck, then please try it. So again, 55 times, even stack the deck and shot through solid bone and tissue, sometimes using cuts that were 2 times the diameter of Charlie Kirk's neck. So that's what we have to go by right now as far as real world. All of this other stuff is just kind of just conjecture, really.
But if I can just real quick respond,
and then I want to go to Darkside. No, go ahead.
Tom, if that's true, then the medical examiner knows they're lying, correct? Because they're saying it's possible. This is what happened. So they're lying.
Joe, do you remember the circumstances with that medical examiner? Didn't they quit or they left? It's a new medical examiner at that.
Joe, you mentioned something yesterday about the kind of veracity of the medical. Was it you? I'm sure it was you who mentioned the veracity.
It was me.
Oh, was it? Oh, go ahead, Darkside. Then come in.
Yeah, but before we get into the medical examiner, and I do think the medical examiner is corrupt, but putting that aside for a second, 100% of the evidence so far that's been presented is completely circumstantial. Would you agree, Rob? I mean, we don't.
No, that's not true. Physical evidence isn't circumstantial. Confessions aren't.
Yes, it is.
Confessions are circumstantial.
So,
define circumstantial.
The confession does not. The proof of custody on the confession doesn't exist. At least
that's different than saying circumstantial.
Hasn't been presented. So, well, it's circumstantial to this point.
No.
So
wait 1 second. Let me get a clarification on this. Manco is actually more confident is Tyler Robinson. He said Andrew Wilson 75% is too low. He's 99%. But you're also a lawyer, Manco. Did you say it is circumstantial or isn't?
No, confessions are not circumstantial. Circumstantial evidence is indirect evidence.
We don't have a confession. We don't have proof of custody because the confession allegedly came in a text.
We have like 4
confessions
from Tyler Robinson.
No, we don't. They're all in text messages, and we don't have
no. It's not conclusive. Let's correct the record.
Hold on. Number 1, he left a note for his boyfriend.
Tyler.
Number 2, he confessed.
No. That's not conclusive. At least correct the record that
number
it's
3,
not.
He texted
it's not
a confession
Tyler.
to his boyfriend. And number 4, he confessed in a Discord chat.
Look,
he's just poisoning the well.
One second. Chill. Darkside, finish your point. Darkside, finish your point, and then I'll bring Manco in for the rebuttal.
My point being, look. You, at the same time that you have a lot of circumstantial evidence one way, you have to be honest about the circumstantial evidence the other way. So what we have is the crime scene was dug up on a Sunday night or a Sunday afternoon in Utah. Not easy to get that done. The people that were told to pave over the crime scene were told it was an emergency paving job ordered by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Okay. That sounds really crazy to me. Why would you pave over the scene? Additionally, you have Turning Point USA staff running up and taking the SD card out of the camera that would have had probably the best view of anybody. And then that SD card never being handed over. Matter of fact, they lied about it. They said they handed it over. But then when we looked at the evidence, what was handed over was a USB stick, not an SD card. And that was months and months later. Why was that person not arrested for tampering with evidence? Again, no answers, but the circumstantial evidence goes both ways. And I think you have to be honest with yourselves and say, look, if you want evidence that there was wrongdoing, there certainly appears to be wrongdoing on the part of the investigators because they did not preserve the scene. Rob, why would you pave over a crime scene on a Sunday? Why?
Okay, I will answer. First to say, you not understanding what the word circumstantial evidence means isn't the rest of ours burden. You don't know what the word means. The evidence against Tyler Robinson, the most compelling evidence is physical evidence.
Why did they pave over? You didn't answer my question. I asked you a straight question. Why did they pave over the crime scene?
I am getting to answer the question.
You're going to have a good answer?
Yes, I'm going to have a good answer. Would you please let me finish?
I can't wait to hear this.
Would you stop interrupting and I'll get to it? So the point is, this evidence is not circumstantial. Then you point to other evidence, which isn't evidence of anything at all. Your claim that you're trying to make is Tyler Robinson isn't the killer. So let's start with this.
I didn't say that. I never said that.
That's clearly
I
the
didn't
point.
say that. I just said, why did they pave over the crime scene? Why did they not take care of the SD card? Why was the SD card never produced? Why did Turning Point USA lie about the SD card? These are all reasonable questions for someone to ask. You haven't given me a single. I just want to know, have you ever heard of a crime scene being paved over within 3 days of a crime?
I'm trying to get to the answer, but you keep interrupting. So what I'm suggesting is the types of evidence we're having are evidence that if you answer the question, if this was the rifle that killed him, does that pretty compelling evidence Tyler Robinson did it? Answer would be yes. If it is true that these confessions are accurate, would that be compelling evidence Tyler Robinson did it?
Yeah, of course it would.
Okay, you're asking questions that if we accept it, if it's true that this was paved over, does that prove Tyler Robinson didn't do it?
It was paved over. It was paved over. Why would you pave over a crime scene?
Answer his question.
I'm getting to answer the question. I'm explaining. I will answer the question, but I'm explaining why.
By the way, to help Rob, it wasn't a crime scene anymore.
That's right. That's what I'm getting to. So this isn't evidence of anything. It wasn't a crime scene. In Sandy
But the feds ordered the crime scene paved over.
You asked the question.
Let me ask you a question.
Why isn't it a crime scene?
Did they take soil samples?
1 second. Too many people are talking again.
Solomon, you need to add. I don't want to be an asshole, but me just coming in listening in, this Dark Side Moon guy needs to shut the fuck up when Rob is giving his answer. Like I would go to time rounds, dude. If I were you, honestly.
I think time rounds is just gonna be. I just don't like them because I feel like people can elaborate.
Make it 1 minute, make it 90 seconds, whatever. But this Dark Side Moon guy's a fucking retard. And he won't shut the fuck up.
No, he's good. He's good. I like Dark Side. No, he's
interrupting and it's painful, dude. All the listeners are like, "Yo, get this guy."
No, because they want to hear from Rob the specific question because Rob is taking a while to answer. He's going to things that
he needs to be able to articulate his full point, man. He's got to get there.
No, he has been. He's probably talked the most on this space compared to anybody else. But the point is that specific point because his claim initially was that what Darkseid asked was why did they pave over? He was talking about why it is Tyler Robinson, but that wasn't Darkseid's claim. That's why he's interrupting. So that's not my claim. Can you go to my specific claim? That was the point.
What I'm trying to say is,
bro, he's getting to it. Like this guy just won't shut the fuck up and let him explain, dude. It's really painful. I'm just coming in with fresh ears, by the way, telling you this. So I'm being very objective here. This guy's annoying as fuck. Let him say his piece, and then you could go ahead and counterbutt that Dark Side. But you're very annoying. Like, be quiet when he's responding, dude. Holy shit. But yeah, up to you how you want to do it. I would say time rounds is the best way to go, but I'm gonna be quiet.
Go ahead,
The
Rob.
only point I was trying to make is these are two different types of evidence. So when he says it's circumstantial on either point, I felt the need to address that. As far as this, Sandy Hook, where multiple people were killed after 72 hours, was no longer considered a crime scene. The point I'm trying to make is this wasn't a crime scene. All the evidence that the police wanted to take was collected. And so then this private campus didn't want a bloody scene, or this public campus didn't want a bloody scene, so they paved over it. There's nothing that illustrates whatsoever that that's something that should make us go, oh my God, this proves there's a cover-up. It wasn't a crime
Who
scene.
paid? Who paid?
Who paid to pave it?
Yeah, who paid? Who ordered it? Who paid?
Yeah,
I believe
according to the
campus
paver,
paid.
No, the FBI ordered the pavers to come and pave it over.
Can you show me that?
That's not true. I've talked to that contractor.
Can we get the evidence of that?
I have his phone number. What he said specifically.
Were there any soil samples taken from the area where
the soil was actually excavated because of all the blood on there, and that's you have to do that by law. It's a biohazard.
Were there any samples taken?
You'd have to ask the FBI or SBI. I'm sure there was. Like, they don't think that a mic exploded, and they don't think that Pettin is on the ground. Like, that's retard stuff. So if they were looking for explosives, they probably weren't. I mean, I don't know what to say about that.
Wait,
That's like the
if they
dumbest, lowest IQ nonsense on the face of the
wait,
planet.
if
There
you said
was no
if they were
explosion. There was
looking
no
for explosions,
explosion.
they probably weren't. What does that
No,
mean?
they wouldn't be looking for an explosion because no explosion happened. When you have an exploding mic, the key element of that is an explosion, and there wasn't one.
So wait, let me ask Manko a question. So Manko, you're obviously a lawyer. What just you said it's no longer a crime scene. Can you explain that? Because for an average normie, they're like, wait a sec, Charlie Kirk got shot. That looks like a crime scene. Why is it that it's no longer a crime scene? A, and B, if you can answer the question in terms of what you call it again, why they would even pave over it, because there may be like the reason people
And
here are
Sully,
asking the question. One second. The
Sully,
reason.
one more.
One second.
The
Wait. Let me
SD
just.
card was
1 second.
taken.
Yeah. 1
The
second.
Dark
SD card
side,
was
1
man.
taken.
second.
Just mute,
Nobody's
bro.
addressed it.
1 second. I just want to. Second point, which the second point is this. That the reason they're logically asking the question, I believe, is, and if it's not, someone do correct me, is this, and wait a sec, there may have been an exit wound, there may be a bullet on the ground, why would you pave over it? So how would you answer both of those?
And
All
Suleiman,
right.
before
As
he
to the
answers that,
first
it only makes
question,
sense to bring another attorney up. Octavia, she's requesting. It only makes sense to bring another attorney up as well if you're going to have Mankos go. So
Sure.
Yeah,
Octavia's
Sure.
Octavia's
requesting.
good, Suleiman.
Sure,
okay,
yeah.
so let me
You'll have to give me a handle though, because there's a lot of people requesting.
yeah,
Go
let
ahead,
me
go ahead.
answer Suleiman real quick. So, number one, I actually looked this up and read about it in detail. The police came in after the murder that night. They spent many hours. I think I read it was like 8 hours or so. They brought in a bunch of sophisticated equipment. They did 3D imaging of the entire area of the crime scene. They did all of their forensics. They spent a long time on it. They collected all their data. And then after they were done, they were like, okay, good, we're done. We're releasing the crime scene. And it was no longer a crime scene after that. 3 days later, people noticed that they were like renovating the area and cleaning it up. And the reason for that, obviously, is because Charlie bled a lot and he bled all over the grass. And so they had to clean that up in some way. So they replaced it with pavers. There is absolutely no reason.
What about the SD
I don't
card?
need you
Which
to
was
interrupt
taken
me,
minutes?
Darkside.
Wait, Darkside, we'll come to the SD card in a second. Just let him finish this
You
point. Go
have
ahead.
to say who ordered it
Yeah.
and who paid.
Yeah. So next, and none of that stuff matters. And quite frankly, I
doesn't
don't
matter.
believe any of the people making these claims. And I have not seen that in the evidence when I was going and looking at this. So that's not credible. You need to provide sources on that. So the second point,
it's a grandma request. It's a FOIA.
Yeah. So yeah, stop interrupting. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because you don't know
Suleiman,
what
what
you're
was the
talking
second
about.
point you wanted me to address?
That was the 2 points. You addressed them both, because the first
SD
one
card.
was
The SD card.
yeah. Go ahead. Mention that. Why did they take the SD card?
If I can, I promise to get to the SD card, but notice that we're moving on. You guys made a definitive claim that the FBI either paid for or ordered this. I'd like to see proof. David Hall testified. He was asked, quote, by Nestor, quote, were you involved in the decision to pave over the dirt under the tenant UVU? Hall's response, no. Nestor says, did you know that it happened? Hall says, only because it was in the news. Nestor says, but you don't know when or who ordered that? Hall says, no. You guys made a definitive claim that the FBI ordered this. I'm happy to see proof. Can you provide it?
Joe, do you want to respond to that?
Governor.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, what I can provide, just to go back on what I had asked Tactical to share, it is in the comments that no, the tool markings do not prove that that casing belonged to that gun. The only reason why they could match the casing to the gun is because it was engraved and there was other bullets that were engraved. Dude. It's in the comments,
it's in the
dude. I
ATF
asked you to
report.
post
I don't
it.
care what.
I asked you to
Suleiman,
post it and you
Paramount
didn't
keeps
post it.
interrupting. Just let Joe speak, bro.
No, Uncle,
I
1
wish
second.
Myron
I don't
would
need
call him a fucking
one.
retard because he
Okay.
always does it every time I speak.
Okay, 1 second, guys. I don't need people to tell me how to moderate the space. I know what I'm doing. I like to run the spaces the way I do it. There's a reason I'm the biggest guy on here. And I don't want to boast, but that's what it is. So I like to run the spaces the way I'm doing it. And so the way we're doing it, you don't need to tell me or give me advice on what to do. So now, coming back to it, Joe, were you speaking? Go and finish your point, and then someone can rebut you.
Yeah, about the tool.
Wait, let Joe go. Let Joe go. Go ahead, Joe.
About the tool markings, they're not conclusive. It's in the comments. Anyone can go look it up. It was inconclusive. Again, fourth time Paramount's caught in a lie. Also, Paramount said that he admitted that the defense admitted that he was on campus and it was him in the stairwell. That got community noted when Brian Johnson shared it and Tactical shared it. So
look, the other side keeps making things up. They keep getting called out on constantly about this thing. There is a video of the owner of the paving company who said it was a request from the FBI to do an emergency paving job on a Sunday. That was shared. That video is out there. If you don't know about it, go look it up. I'm sure you can find it pretty easily. I asked people to post stuff. Rob, I asked you.
I'm putting it in the purple pill now, Joa. That
Thank you.
video
I
of
asked,
the paver.
yeah, I asked
Thank you, Joe.
Paramount also to post. They didn't post it. I had to go look and post it to prove them wrong because they don't provide any evidence whatsoever. So go in the comments, go look. The two markings did not match. It was inconclusive.
Okay, I want to one second, guys. 1 second. Purple pill, just the comments. I want to go to Paramount to respond to that claim, if that's okay, and then we'll get Myron in, and I'll bring the other lawyer up. I just need to drop someone. That's the only problem. But okay, go ahead. Paramount, respond.
Yeah. So specifically, the casing, the brass casing, was confirmed through tool markings to come from that round. That's what was said earlier, and that's what I corrected. The bullet, the jacket itself, yes, that information was inconclusive. But the actual casing that was found in the gun, that has been proven.
Hopefully we
that
get back
the
to the
tool
debate
markings
soon,
match
guys,
that it was
who
fired
won the debate.
from that rifle itself. So that's what I was talking about specifically.
For me
I know
anyway.
you guys
this is still interesting
just kind of
to listen to.
Just kind of throw everything together, but that's what I was talking. I've talked about many times that the actual round itself, the ballistics testing was inconclusive. That's a fact. The other part of this is going back, and I would love for the lawyer Mankos to talk about this. Everybody keeps saying that the SD card that he, violated or contaminated a crime scene. At that point, your property on that crime scene is yours. They have to get a warrant. So he absolutely is within his rights to go up there and get their SD cards. Just like where did the crime scene end? Was everybody just supposed to stay in place and suddenly everybody in place? And by the way, they did get that footage. That's been confirmed. Like, you guys keep talking about all these things, whether it's DNA, whether it's the metadata from the cell phones. You guys are the ones that can't keep your story straight, and you're saying this is circumstantial evidence or that it's hearsay when it's not. Like, let's be real.
Okay, let's bring Myron in the conversation, and then we'll go back to the topic of what we're talking about. But go ahead, Myron, jump in. Myron, I can't hear you. Can anyone hear Myron?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Okay. Okay, let's go to what's called Trillion. You were going to respond?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to go to the debate after we get done with the debate itself, because everybody's bringing up all of these great arguments, and part of that is completely absent from the debate itself. So I think that would be super important to cover. I think it would just be a lot more interesting going back and forth. But if anybody wants a citation from day 2 of preliminary, where Gonzalez testifies to a gun being found in that holster that I mentioned previously, we can do that. And UVU did not pay for the repaving. They also didn't commission it. They were reached out to by the governor. They found a construction company that is not outfitted to do that kind of work at all. And if you've talked to that whoever it is, the contractor, he will tell you that. They had to scramble on a Sunday, pull guys together. Not much gets done on Sunday. And that's the questions that people have. So when you argue it's overwhelming, there are so many smaller aspects in this case that lead one to believe that it's not as straight up and simple as what the case presents. And that is what the debate is ultimately about. What Andrew Wilson is attempting to do is to shut Candace up. They've been calling her, like Gary's been doing a lot. I don't know if there's anyone who watches as much Candace Owens and posts about her as Gary. Gary is like, dude, you are the Candace Owens titan. Congratulations.
Okay, cool. Myron, is your mic working now? No, it's not working. Rob, are you going to jump in?
Yeah, just real quick, I'd like to say, again, Trillion continues to mislead what the topic of the debate was. Andrew Wilson's entire reason for wanting to take this debate was to get Candace to defend her claims. I agree with him. We should focus on the debate. As Joe has said earlier, she provided no evidence, that is true, of her claim that he was set up as a patsy. The only thing that he could provide is her providing questions as to whether or not this gun was used, or her providing questions as to whether or not the messages of the confession were actually his. She provided no evidence of her claims that Israel's involved, that the French Foreign Legion's involved, that Turning Point USA is involved, that Erica Kirk's involved. None. In fact, she backtracked and merely said, watch my show. So I'm happy to talk about the debate specifically. However, one thing I want to say, because honest to goodness, I am good faith and I'm willing to admit I'm wrong. Trillionaire, I think that's your name. I would be happy for you to DM me evidence that the guy said he found a gun in a holster. Was it Bagley that testified on day 2? I'm happy to admit if I'm wrong.
I just told you.
Who was
It's
the
Officer Trooper Gonzalez. He's found it. So it's day 2 of testimony. The account shifted. So day 1, he said he found an empty holster. On day 2, the account shifted. Trooper Gonzalez report via Davis Exhibit Hull 13 states that the gun was found in the holster. Day 2 at 1 hour, 48 minutes, and 58 seconds. I can send it to you.
Can you just, I know this is a pain, but can you DM me that? Because I definitely want to upgrade what I'm saying about this case, if that's true. So if you can send me a message on X,
there's an entire website of this. See, what's interesting to me is
send
like,
me from the test.
genuinely, I will send you the whole thing so you can see it. And I'm just saying genuinely, how much time do you believe Andrew spent studying Candace's arguments? Like when you say she presents you might not like the evidence, you might not think it's very good, but how can you make the claim that she provides no evidence?
When did she provide that evidence?
She provided no evidence in the debate.
How could you say that?
Because
she doesn't talk about
you conceded
DNA.
every time she went to present evidence.
She does talk about evidence. Like I don't know why you guys have this.
If I can, I'll put it as blatantly as I can. Her position in the debate, the topic was, and I quote, her position was, there is overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson did not kill Charlie Kirk and was set up as a patsy. Can you provide me any evidence in the debate where she provided that? Any evidence?
Joa or Trillion, go ahead.
Yeah. She talked about the prints and she talked about the dust in the rifle. If she said what she's suggesting, it wasn't him that pulled the trigger and it's his gun in the forest, that therefore he is a patsy. It's just,
and that's
I don't know
overwhelming.
why you guys keep making this a point.
With all due respect,
How is
that
that
doesn't
evidence?
prove he's a patsy. That is evidence that maybe he's not the killer. A patsy means that he's intentionally being set up. She says by the feds. Those are two different claims saying, well, actually, I have reasonable doubt because even though his prints were on the gun, they were degraded. So therefore, it may not have been him. That's a different claim than he's a patsy. So show me the evidence that she spoke to affirmatively that he's a patsy being set up.
Let me tell you,
if someone takes your gun and puts it in the forest to make it seem like you're the shooter, is that you being made a patsy? Yes, 100%.
Did she provide any evidence that someone took his gun and set it in the forest?
Because Andrew conceded when she started saying that. Yes, he did.
Rob, the identification. All right, so number one, Rob, 1 second. One second.
Yeah. Let's get the government to provide the evidence. How would that make sense? Let's get the government.
Wait 1 second, Uncle Tom. Let Rob finish his point. Go ahead, Rob.
Let me just respond to Joe real quick. I promise I'll be brief. Joe, no, him conceding that the DNA was the most degraded isn't conceding that he didn't handle the gun. We already went through this. You conceded that most degraded does not mean that he was the last person, wasn't the last person to handle the gun. So he was just saying, even if that's true, it's the most degraded. That doesn't speak to the fact that it wasn't him.
Was Lance's DNA on the towel?
All right, can you guys hear me?
Was Lance's DNA wrapped around the rifle? Go ahead. Yeah.
Lance's DNA, I'll say this real quick. Lance's DNA was found both on the screwdriver, on the towel. Candace had said in, I believe, 5 episodes that it was on the rifle, including 7 days before the debate. That is incorrect. She's actually lying about that. They never claimed.
Rob, listen, we don't know because they said one person that's on the gun. They never said that Lance's was not on the gun. Correct?
If I can, 2 things. One, Candace said they said his DNA was on the rifle more. In fact, if you want the specific language he said,
No, that's not what I just asked you. I just said they never said that Lance's was not on the gun.
Let me finish my point, and then you can respond. Her claim was, quote, I think people are lying by omission that are mentioning that Robinson's DNA was on the gun because they don't mention that it was degraded. And Lance Twiggs' DNA was on the rifle more than Tyler Robinson's. That's a lie. It was never testified to. Second, so that's the only thing I'm arguing against.
Rob, how did they determine that? How did they determine?
Wait, Trillion, let him.
Lists.
One second, Trillion. I want him to finish this point because I actually want to hear what he's got to say. Can you not interrupt? Go ahead, Rob.
Can you take me down and put in Octavia, Suleiman? Can you take me down if you don't have?
Okay, secondly, to make the point, right? The fact that they said, and Lance Twiggs' DNA was on the screwdriver, and Lance Twiggs' DNA is on the towel, it defies credulity that they would also know that Lance Twiggs' DNA was on the gun. But for some reason, that's the only item they didn't mention it. So the fact that they're specifically saying, look, we want you to know Lance Twiggs' DNA was on the screwdriver. We want you to know it was on the towel. What possible explanation if they know it was on the gun would they not say it? It's ludicrous.
Could Lance have wrapped the gun in the towel and then placed it there? That's what people are saying, is that you don't have Tyler bringing the gun to that location. You don't have Tyler near it. You don't have Tyler taking a gun out of the car. Like, you have to admit, it's Tyler's rifle. It has his DNA. What if someone, his roommate, takes one of Tyler's towels, wraps the gun up, and puts it in a bush? What's like unreasonable about this?
But again, what you're doing is you're talking about things that are hypothetically possible, and you have no evidence to suggest it. Once more, I'll repeat. All of the
his
evidence...
DNA is on the towel.
Please, let me finish. Please.
What do you mean, no
we
evidence?
would expect his DNA to be on the towel because it was a towel that was used at home. It was probably a cum rag. Yes, these two lovers' DNA is on a towel. We actually see that his DNA is on the Dremel as well, right?
Oh, the one that engraved the bullets, and yet he gets immunity and never gets arrested. So that seems like a thorough investigation.
Why do you keep interrupting me? Just you ask the question.
Because you don't stop talking. You've talked this whole time.
I'm not even talking much here. I'm just answering your question.
You'd expect him to talk if you asked him a question, hey?
You're talking about things that are hypothetically possible, but you.
I want to talk about the debate. So
wait, Trillion. Can you before you interrupt, you made sense because you were disagreeing, but now you're just saying words. Rob, finish your point because I've got a question for you.
The only point I have is all the evidence is pointing in the same direction, and so show me any evidence that Lance Twiggs that we have was on the scene.
Well, Rob, let me ask you a question, and then I want to bring Myron in. In the debate, and I can only just base it on the debate. What's her name again? Candace's argument was, I know your initial point, she said, yeah, but she conceded that wasn't correct. But then in the debate, her argument she said that Lance Twiggs, we don't know if Lance Twiggs's DNA is on the gun, and that hasn't been confirmed because there's 4 other prints, and we don't know. Is that your understanding? And if it is, what's your rebuttal to that?
Yes, I'll rebut that. Yes, that is my understanding of what changed. One, would she have changed if Andrew hadn't paid $300,000 to debate her and asked this question? No, she would have still been telling her audience over and over again that Twiggs' DNA was on the rifle more than Robinson. She's lying by her own standard, where she says you're lying if you don't mention that the DNA is degraded of Robinson. So that's number one. Number two, she has no affirmative evidence for that. I've already pointed to how it wouldn't make sense that the state would admit the DNA is on the screwdriver, the DNA is on the towel, if they had his DNA on the rifle and didn't say it. So she's backtracking like she did her claims the entire time. I again repeat.
But Robbie, you're just repeating. When you say there's no affirmative evidence, what you're basically saying is we haven't got confirmation that Lance Twiggs' DNA is on the gun. But I'm saying, is it true that when it comes to those other 4 people who are allegedly whose prints are on the gun, we don't have confirmation who they are, and it could be Lance Twiggs? Is that right or wrong?
It could be Lance Twiggs or you or Candace Owens. That's true. What I'm saying is overwhelmingly, it wouldn't make sense for the state to admit Lance Twiggs' DNA is on the screwdriver, Lance Twiggs' DNA is on the towel, and then have Lance Twiggs' DNA on the rifle, but not say it. So it's her making, I don't see how the burden's on me to say, well, because they didn't name all 4 people, hypothetically, it could be Lance Twiggs. So when she makes the claim over and over to her audience, it couldn't have been Tyler Robinson that did this because Lance Twiggs on the DNA on the rifle more than him. That's a lie. And that lie would have persisted if she wasn't called out. She did not make one affirmative argument that he was a patsy.
I got it, Rob. No, I got it. Myron, do you want to jump on something? And then I want to bring the speakers.
All I was going to say, as someone that used to, do criminal investigations and work crime scenes, etc., what I will say is that it's not uncommon to try to get off the crime scene as quickly as possible, especially when we're talking about a university that has a vested interest in the kids feeling safe and not creating a toxic environment. I mean, if you look at the Idaho 3 that were killed, they destroyed the house that was there on campus because, they don't want certain things being on campus because that hurts their bottom line with, students feeling safe, them being able to get enrollment, et cetera. So I'm pretty confident that the president of the university put an enormous amount of pressure on law enforcement to get what they needed, process the scene as quickly as possible and get the fuck out of there. And then obviously they're going to pave it after the fact. So I do think that that's a plausible explanation as to why they quickly paved over it, because when you have a crime scene, especially in a public area like that, there's a lot of pressure for them to get you out of there, especially at a college university. And you could look at the Idaho 3 as an example of that when they destroyed the house.
May I jump in solely about this particular paving
I'm
situation?
done. You go ahead. Take it away.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, okay, great. So, a couple of things. First of all, I just posted in the Purple Pill the usual procedure when there is a gunshot wound on surfaces. And usually it doesn't involve repaving the surface. Number two, it's a well-known information, now correct me if I'm wrong, that usually with Charlie going to different colleges and speaking, and a lot of speakers do that, they usually have a platform. They sit on a platform. Their chair is not placed immediately on the ground surface, whether it's grass or whether it's cement, because they need to be higher up for the people in the audience to sit. And I've spoken at different colleges, etc. So I kind of know that that's usually the thing. So, and I believe that Candace, in one of her talks, she actually, not because of the pavement situation, repaving, but for some other reason, she mentioned that usually TPO USA, they do carry a platform that then they place Charlie's chair on it. And so that refused the idea of repaving. Now here is another thing. Usually, I mean, if you look at the videos that were released from different angles, showing the time of the shooting and afterwards, the chaos and everything. And then the fact that afterwards, the guy from TPUSA that wants to get the SIM card or whatever, the memory card or whatever, uses the chair that Charlie was sitting on. If we're to believe there was so much blood on the floor, why wasn't it so much on the chair? Why wasn't it on the people that were basically attempting to help Charlie as they went down and as they carried him to the car? Nobody had a lot of blood on them. The blood wasn't dripping from him as they carried him to the car. So the idea that there was so much blood that psychologically is devastated to the students, to me, doesn't make sense. It doesn't justify the FBI ordering the repaving. And that crime scene was completely contaminated with everybody walking around it. If there was so much blood on the floor, why were people walking on it, walking around, taking the SIM card, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So that just doesn't make sense to me.
So Myron, can I ask you a question on this? Because you did work for the FBI. Sorry?
Homeland Security investigator.
Oh, Homeland Security, yeah. And so, yeah, awesome. So the question here is, you mentioned what the normative position would be. Would the two questions, would that change? Because this is like a high profile case. There is possibly evidence, well, not possibly, yeah, there is a possibility, especially for people who don't agree with the mainstream narrative, that there may be evidence in terms of possibly a bullet being there, and then they believe that this has been paved over, so therefore you're taking away evidence. So in this situation, would it be normal for this to be paved over? First part of the question. The second part question, so Darkside brought up, which is the SD cards. Is it normal for the SD cards to be taken out, or whatever his argument was? So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, what I'll say is that, you know, there's an enormous amount of law enforcement there. You had the FBI response team, evidence response team, who they're really good at what they do. You had the state police there. You had local police there. So, you know, they were probably able to process that scene fairly quickly with the amount of manpower that was there. And then, like I said before, universities, right, are very finicky whenever there's like violent acts that happen, you know, on their campuses. And they're, you know, they try to destroy anything that might get in the way of people enrolling or feeling safe, or students, you know, being able to walk the area. So, you know, I guarantee there's probably an enormous amount of pressure on the investigators to, like, you know, get your evidence, get out of there. And, you know, it is what it is. So, and I use the example with the Idaho 3, right? If you guys remember, those 3 people that were killed by Brian Koberger, they destroyed the house. They knocked it down. Why? That was because enormous pressure from the
I
school
got the stream
to get rid of the house because they didn't
Grandmaster.
want it to become like an area that
both
people
of
would
them.
want to tour and, look at it as like, to memorialize
$20
the killer.
text-to-speech.
I would not be surprised if this university had the same, mindset. Now, with that said, I'm just giving an example as to why it could be plausible, like, why they would want to get off the crime scene quickly. And then with the enormous amount of law enforcement over there, I can't imagine that they wouldn't be able to process the scene very quickly. We're talking about some of the top tier agencies with the most advanced technology and specialists processing the scene. So they'd probably be able to do it fairly quickly.
Thanks for that, Myron. I want to welcome Bryson onto the space. Bryson, thanks for joining us. I believe you also hold the position that Candace lost the debate. If you want to elaborate on your position, because you didn't have much time yesterday.
I mean, it's just objective. So a debate is 2 people trying to provide supporting evidence or support for their main positions. And as I said yesterday, when Andrew was asked about why he thinks the evidence is overwhelming, he brought up many things, but one of the things, as I said yesterday, are the text messages. You can claim you believe the text messages are fake. You need the metadata, which the metadata is never released in public for any case in that matter. But whatever you claim, he gave evidence. Just objectively speaking, he gave evidence for his position. Candace, over the course of 3 hours, I'm not even over-exaggerating, she gave not one piece of evidence for anything. Matter of fact, she got offended when questioned further about evidence. She said things like, I answered how I felt like I wanted to answer rather than answering a question. She pivoted 100 times. Like, I'm not even over-exaggerating. She didn't have evidence for one singular thing over 3 hours. And because she knew how to say the charges off the top of the head is a debate win.
My hand.
I think that is interesting to say the least.
I want to bring in Octavia, and then I know Joe and Myron want to speak as well. Octavia, you're also a lawyer, I believe. I was asked to bring you up. Was there anything you wanted to add or disagree with in terms of when Manco was here giving his legal analysis?
Okay, so I missed part of that. I was also sort of tagged to come in here, but I did hear him talking about paving the crime scene. I will tell you that I think a lot of this discussion is basically presupposing perhaps a false idea that law enforcement have impeccable investigations where they aren't sloppy and mistakes aren't made. And so I think if that is the assumption going in here, that is building the basis for some people's positions and viewpoints. But there are plenty of investigations that may not even be high profile where the crime scene is held for a lot longer than this one is, and they're not released, where the processing takes a long time. If they are running a warrant to process a crime scene in somebody's house, for example, if you remember the Making a Murder, for example, how long the police department kept Stephen Avery's house sealed where he couldn't even enter, and then they actually re-upped their processing of his house and came back. And so I do think, in my experience as somebody who has done criminal law prosecution as well, in a high-profile situation, it doesn't make sense that the crime scene was released so quickly, given that they hadn't even had a suspect. They didn't even know what they were looking for. So I don't know that I agree with the notion that, I think people are sort of jumping over that and glossing over that if that wasn't necessarily a big deal, but I think it's significant. The other issue that I would disagree with is this notion of the SD card. When law enforcement is trying to secure a crime scene, you don't want eyewitnesses jumping in there and messing with things. That is essentially degrading the crime scene. That's contaminating the crime scene. And so I think when you have TPUSA witnesses and employees that are jumping into the crime scene within minutes, removing items, I think that is significant. And I think it's problematic because it is degrading the crime scene at a minimum. But I think that those people should be questioned and asked why they're doing that and what they have. But if you are contaminating a crime scene immediately, it's going to call into question the remainder of the investigation, because that person who jumped in to get the SD cards also then used the very chair that the victim was sitting in. So you have an issue now here with the contaminated crime scene. Those things should have been gathered and kept as physical evidence anything that the victim touched, anything that the victim was wearing. And you have also the footage. So I think that there were some issues and some mistakes that were made in securing the crime scene, number one, allowing eyewitnesses to go back in there and remove SD cards, and then the very quick turnaround in releasing the crime scene and paving over that.
Okay, thanks for that, Octavia. Does somebody, and then I want to bring Myron after that, but does anybody want to respond?
I got to respond to that. This
Oh,
is
you respond to it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, dude, this is why lawyers a lot of the times don't know what they're talking about. A search warrant is not the same as an open area where a crime scene occurred. When you have a search warrant, you basically own that house once you breach. You're securing the area. You're making sure people aren't in there. You're clearing it for bodies. Then you're actually actively searching depending on what you're looking for in the house. If you're looking for narcotics, obviously, you could be far more invasive, take floorboards out, etc. So a search warrant is not equivalent whatsoever to this situation at all. You own that house when you have paper on it. That's number one. Number two, I'm not disputing the fact that there might be issues with the crime scene and how it went down. But let's be honest, that guy pulled that SD card before investigators can get on the scene and actively go ahead and stop him from doing that. So there's some things that, like you said before, are simply not going to be able to be controlled by the investigators that arrive on the scene. And then the second thing I want to say is the reason why they were able to process the scene so quickly is because they literally had the FBI response team there, guys that came in from Washington, D.C., as well as the state police there as well. These guys are experts when it comes to collecting evidence, and they were able to do it very quickly. Now, and there was an enormous amount of resources on that location. We're talking about the director and the co-director of the FBI coming in and flying in and overseeing it. So of course they're going to make sure that they process the scene quickly. And then, like I said before, the university is going to have issues because they're going to be like, yo, we can't have you guys on our campus all day. We got classes. There's students here. We want this blood cleaned up. We want you guys out of here. It's not a good look for the university. And I love how this stupid woman over here who knows nothing about law enforcement is putting a bunch of thumbs down. Like, bro, like you don't know what you're talking about. And this is a problem when you talk to people that don't have any type of law enforcement experience. Nobody gives a shit that you teach anything, woman. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I'm actually someone that's done criminal investigations. I've served hundreds of search warrants. I've written affidavits that have been approved by AUSAs. I write my own affidavits, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about, which is why you're speaking the way that you are. But back to what I was saying before. Again, am I going to sit here and say that law enforcement was perfect? No, the lawyer was actually right. A lot of mistakes are going to be made. No investigation is perfect, and preserving evidence a lot of times isn't going to be perfect. But with that said, the speed at which they processed the scene, that's explainable. They had an enormous amount of resources there. Hundreds of agents and law enforcement officials were there. So of course they're going to be able to process it. As far as like the SD card, hey, I agree. That's fucking stupid. Why would you let someone come into the crime scene? But it's important to realize that that crime scene was not secured before that TPUSA guy got in there and took what it was. This is like right after Charlie was shot. So of course investigators weren't able to come in and secure the crime scene. This happens all the time, and it's their job to find that guy and get the SD card and try to preserve as much of the evidence as possible. And then as far as like them cleaning the area up, like I said before,
did they do that? Just a quick question. Did they do that? Did they get
That's what everyone is complaining.
No, the SD card. No, you mentioned that.
That they got it, but I'm not sure if they did. Okay. I think, and Tactical would speak to that if he wants. But the point I'm trying to make is that they paved the area over because the crime scene was effectively done and they got what they needed and they got out of there. And then, like I said before, universities have a big issue when there's crimes committed on their campuses. Campus police are a lot of the times are not instructed to arrest students. They're there to try to preserve a certain type of environment, and they're trying to not make it look unsafe or dangerous or anything else like that. Again, I used Idaho as an example. You had one of the most prolific murders in America. What did they do? They knocked down that fucking house as soon as they could. Why? Because it creates an air of issues for the school to be able to get students to enroll and to make money. So again, I'm not saying that they rolled it over and that wasn't bad. I'm not saying that, but I am saying is that it makes sense why it could possibly have been done that way. And just to be clear, just so people know my position, I'm not sold on either narrative, whether it's the official narrative, there's holes in that, and there's obviously holes in the alternative theories. I'm just speaking objectively here, why they would clean the environment after the crime scene was secured. And then it makes sense because hundreds of agents were there processing the crime scene. So of course they're going to get through it quickly.
Fair enough. I want to bring Blake.
Can I ask Myron a question? Can I ask him a question real quick?
All right, quickly, because I want to bring Blake into the conversation as well, because he's been following this case for a while as well.
Myron, if the FBI comes to a conclusion within 2 days of who did it, would they bother? Although, the FBI director did say he was going to keep looking. When they pave over, does that mean it's like case closed for them? Do you understand what I'm trying to ask?
It's not even an FBI case. It's a state case. The state, honestly, like the FBI has no power in this investigation. It's the state that's running it. The FBI was there from a supportive perspective, to process things. And a big reason why is because they can get things done quicker than a state lab can a lot of the times. That's why a lot of the evidence was flown over to Virginia, to Quantico. But it's a state case at the end of the day, and they're calling all the shots.
So Blake, I wanted to bring you in. I know you've been following the case for a while as well, and then we'll get Jake to respond. And if you can just give us your general thoughts as well, A, about the debate, B, about what we're talking about, but also someone's messaging me saying that they didn't get the SD card, but then I'm seeing on my chat where someone's saying they didn't get the SD card, they got a copy of it. So there's three different theories going on. So what's your thoughts on that, and then do respond.
Well, my first part would be a question to Myron as far as, and I understand he's ran investigations. Does someone with a badge have to show up first to declare that this is a crime scene, and for everyone to get away and get out? Or is there kind of a like a social norm or just common sense element to it that I just witnessed something, everything here under this tent has now become a crime scene, even though federal authorities have not come on scene, and it's probably not going to be a good idea to take stuff away. So, like, I guess my question is, anybody else, man, they would get jammed up.
Yeah. So to answer your question, typically it's someone's mic is Blake. Your mic is making a lot of sound. Look, typically the patrolmen are going to be the first ones that are on the scene, right? They're the first responders a lot of the times. And depending on the situation, right, if it's a calm area, then of course they're going to have the wherewithal to be like, all right, we need to preserve the crime scene. But we're talking about campus cops that don't have as much experience when it comes to investigations, pandemonium everywhere. They don't know if there's another shooter. It's obviously a chaotic scene. So preserving the crime scene is going to come second after making sure that there's not an active shooter on the scene and securing the area. Then securing the crime scene comes after that. So, again, we're speaking from 2020.
But what about from like a common sense standpoint, like a citizen? I mean, I don't have to be told by a cop that I'm not allowed to do something. I know that this is not right, and I don't need to be taking these SD cards because this is now, even though there's no official FBI, State Bureau investigators, even though they're not here yet, I know that this is going to get me in a jam. Therefore,
like I said before, bro, you can ask that guy that took the SD card. I'm not sitting here defending the guy that took the SD card. I'm explaining to you that crime scenes aren't perfect, and all you could do is work with what you got. That guy took that SD card well before investigators got on scene, and obviously I think there was 5 or 10 patrolmen that were there at the time. So of course their priority isn't going to be to secure the scene for a criminal investigation. Their job is to track down an active shooter if there is one, because they're not sure what happened. Law enforcement in America nowadays is taught, if there's an active shooter, you go after the active shooter first after everything. So that's how they're trained. I mean, I did active shooter training. I'm sure many other law enforcement people in here that might have done it before know what I'm talking about. So you're going to go and attack that threat. Then after that, then you can go ahead and figure out, okay, what are we going to do with the crime scene? Now, as far as this guy,
so you wouldn't have charged him?
Yeah, it was retarded. What was that?
You wouldn't have charged him?
That's still his personal. Myron, explain
to
them
to make
how.
the decision. That's for the state
Myron,
to make
explain
that
to
decision.
them that personal property is still a thing, and that you either voluntarily give that over as evidence, or they have to get a warrant. He can take anything that is his personal property. You can remove from that scene. They can't stop you unless they have a warrant. So, this has been explained multiple times by multiple lawyers on this issue. So, I mean, I don't know.
That is true. Yeah, I'd have to. Yeah, if he doesn't give me consent to go through it, I would have to go and get a search warrant.
Can I ask something here, please, Zilliman?
To be safe.
Yeah, jump in.
Yeah,
jump
so
in,
I mean, even if you just grant that the TPUSA employees didn't act correctly there, that maybe they shouldn't have done that. But these guys have just said that you need a warrant before you can actually come and take the property. But if you just grant these things that they didn't act properly, what is actually the inference here? And then also in terms of the paving over as well, why do you think that they've done this if this is nefarious? What are you actually implying here, so we can get to the meat of what you guys are claiming?
Yeah, that's a great point, because whoever's making the SD card argument, I guess they're trying to say that TPUSA was trying to hide evidence, right? Joe Trillion?
Yeah, I was just giving an explanation as to why
didn't
they
hear the
probably were
question.
able to clean it up so quickly. I was giving that explanation because you got hundreds of law enforcement officers, you got the FBI evidence response team as well as the state police representatives there that all process evidence. This is all they do. It's literally what they're designed to do. You got 1811 special agent FBI guys that all they do is process evidence. That's what they do. They don't even do carry cases. So of course they're going to be able to process the scene quickly. And then, like I said before, I guarantee there was an enormous amount of pressure from the school to get the crime scene cleaned up quickly because it's a university. Their job is to make money. And I gave you guys the example with the Idaho 3 before, where they destroyed an active crime scene immediately as they could, as fast as they could.
And all of that makes total sense there. All that makes total sense. And like, as for me, it makes sense as to why they would pave it over, especially if they've got all these experts who have come in and they've said that this is not a crime scene anymore. This is a biohazard for the university. I haven't actually seen any evidence, by the way, that the FBI ordered this. But what's the implication here? Is the implication that they were trying to hide something? And what do you think that they were trying to hide exactly? Or is this basically just inferring motives?
Okay, Judicial Watch put out a grandma request. They wanted to know about who paid for the repaving. The initial cleanup was paid for by the university. It was like $6,000 some odd dollars. The paving was paid by somebody else. And there's a lot of rumors around it. That area stayed off limits. It stayed roped off for months and months afterwards. The point is that I don't think it proves anything either way. Of course, they're going to clean up a bunch of blood soaked into the thing.
So the FBI, was it?
The FBI what?
Was it the FBI who paid for it? Because that's what you guys were saying before. That
Nobody knows. It didn't come back in the.
So you have no idea that there was any government sort of involvement in that regard.
We're saying it's not the university. I don't know. I don't.
So
think
you're
it matters
inferring
that
what
much.
happened, and then you're also
I'm not
inferring motives
anything,
as well.
Just listen.
Well, maybe not.
The point is, they're just like, if you ask a question about that, it's a reasonable question. Judicial Watch had the same question. They got an answer in a grammar request. Like, it's just that a lot of this stuff that Candace asked, people are like, what?
I literally just answered it to
Answered
you. More than likely what happened. I just explained it.
But we don't need to wonder it. We got a grammar request. I'm saying that it's not an unreasonable question to have. It just doesn't prove anything either way.
Okay, so just before you go, Rob. Oh, go ahead, Rob, and then I want to bring Dan into. I want to hear what Dan's got to say about this. Go ahead, Rob.
Real quick, just say two things. One, maybe not you, Trillion, but someone on your side was saying the FBI paid for this or ordered it, and there's no proof of that. Secondly, Octavia, sorry I'm losing my voice a little. Octavia,
Dan Bilzerian's going to ruin my stream here.
That could be the Fed screwing up or the police screwing up. I agree, and that could raise reasonable doubt. But the claim in this debate that Candace was having to defend was there was overwhelming evidence that he was set up as a patsy, Tyler Robinson. Are you making the claim here that if the Fed screwed up, this is evidence that Robinson's being set up by them as a patsy, as Candace Owens is implying?
No, I am not making that claim, but I also want to say that there were 4 victims in the Idaho case, not 3, and it is a false equivalency because it took them 407 days or 13 months to tear down the house. So this is not all the same. So we can't even use the comparison to the Moscow murders because it's just not the same. But if you can point to sloppy investigation or questionable crime scene being secured, I think those things should be looked at in context if we're going to talk about the investigation as a whole. So my point had nothing to do with Candace Owens's debate or argument about her saying Tyler Robinson is set up as a patsy. I'm simply stating that we're going to have a discussion about the investigation. Let's have context here and not assume that these investigations are infallible and that there may have been some things that could have been handled better. That's it. I'm not making any claims about Tyler Robinson being a patsy because it's possible that the way that the crime scene was handled was sloppy.
And the big one we got to get to is identification, okay? I'll let whoever goes next. But beyond the paving, beyond that, the big problem here is the actual identification of Tyler Robinson in any of the pictures or on, so on.
Yeah, I want to get into that because that's one of the claims, right? That's one of Andrew Wilson's arguments for why he believes it was Tyler Robinson. But just before we do, just want to welcome Dan into the space. Dan, I hope you're doing well. Dan is running a very important race in Florida. I believe the deadline for that is tomorrow, or the 18th. So everybody watch out for that. But Dan, I don't know if you're listening or not, but how are you doing?
How's it going?
Yeah,
getting attacked today, bro. Fucking Mike Johnson. I got Don Bacon, Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and Rick Scott all fucking going crazy. And yeah, it's getting spicy.
Well, they must be afraid. They might be afraid of how the race is going, Dan.
Well, Randy Fine reported me to the police, and then he reported me to the FBI 2 days ago. The police, he said I was spray painting swastikas on his sign, and then just typical Jew fashion. And then 2 days ago, he asked the FBI to investigate my campaign. So getting interesting.
Yeah, well, we obviously do implore everybody to check out your race and do vote for you on the 18th. But what's your thoughts about the Charlie Kirk assassination? We've got people debating both sides here.
Look, I don't think it was a 30-6. It just seems very unlikely. Is it possible? Yeah, I think it's like a super low percent. As I told you before, I've like dug a lot of 30-6 out. I know what they do. I also think it's very strange that they wouldn't be able to get ballistics from that round. I think it's very weird that they paved over the site. I think the T-shirt puffing up in the back and the front when it was a neck shot is strange. I think it's odd that they sold the car immediately. I think the whole explosive center blowing up and having, who was it? What's his name's plane like descended to 7,000 feet and slowed down at 150 miles an hour and flew right over as I guess the explosive center was blowing up. I mean, that seems strange. There's just like a lot of weird stuff. But yeah, I mean, I haven't studied a ton. I watched the debate. I thought Candace smoked him, but I actually didn't think either of them did a great job providing a super compelling argument either way, to be totally honest.
And Dan, you're close to the Charlie Kirk scar. I remember when we were doing the space, you're the one who came into the space and gave us the exclusive. At the time, I think Tim Pool put out tweet saying he's fine, but then you were like, no, I know, I've got information, he is dead. So, I mean, you were the first one to reveal that publicly to everyone.
Yeah, no, I knew he was dead like 20 minutes later or 10 minutes later, but I had a friend that was like in direct contact, so.
Fair enough, Dan. And we do support you in your race. I hope it goes well for you. And yeah, that's tomorrow, isn't it? Everyone needs to vote by. But Robbie, you had a question?
No, they gotta vote on Tuesday. Last
Tuesday.
day to vote is Tuesday. Yeah, I can't vote tomorrow, so they gotta come out Tuesday.
Okay. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I want to say this real quick. They were trying to destroy that school. They were trying to destroy that house literally since the beginning of the trial. They only got to destroy it later on because they weren't able to. But they were trying to destroy that house from the beginning. But I'll just
Which house?
Turn it there. The house on
Which
King
house?
Street that I was talking about with the Idaho 4, Idaho 3, whatever. She's over here. It was Idaho 4 actually. Same shit. The Idaho 3, Idaho 4 doesn't matter. The point is that they tried to destroy that house from the beginning.
Dan, can I ask you a question?
And I have something to add to that, Rob.
Real quick.
Oh, Dan.
Dan.
Ask if Myron's going to vote for Dan. Actually, I'd like to know because Myron's kissed the wall lately. So I don't know.
Uncle Tom, shut up, dude. Let him ask.
Okay, guys, it's going off track. Can we bring the conversation back on track? Go ahead, Rob.
Talking about Jews and anyone else, you could go suck a dick, faggot. The fuck
okay, go ahead.
If I can, Dan, you said you thought topic of the debate was if you watched it.
So I didn't watch the last hour of it. But I saw the topic was basically, I believe, him trying to dispel her theories and her claims, or basically making her prove her claims, and then litigating what she said.
Okay, would you be surprised if the topic was Andrew's claim there was overwhelming evidence Tyler Robinson was guilty versus her claim there was overwhelming evidence that he was set up by a patsy? If that's the case, can you show me one argument she made that he was set up as a patsy? Just one piece of evidence.
No, listen. I think you're right. The way you frame that, I think that's exactly what the argument.
How could you say Candace crushed him if she didn't even provide one piece of evidence?
Well, I mean, in the sense that he couldn't name one of the 7 charges, I thought that he was trying to use some intimidation tactics that she shut down. I thought she controlled the conversation very well, just from like an argument standpoint. He seemed very nervous. She was very calm, cool, and collected. She seemed like she had a lot more facts and evidence. But I listen. I agree. I don't think she presented a very strong case. I wasn't compelled by her evidence at all.
Well, the last thing
to be honest,
I think you're someone who's running for Congress, which is awesome. So we expect more from people running for Congress than just like appeals to rhetoric or emotion. If you're acknowledging that the topic was she had to prove evidence that he's a patsy, and you didn't see her provide one piece of evidence, Surely you'll now admit she lost, correct?
I mean, Rob,
okay. I mean, you're pretty aggressive in the framing, but listen, I do agree, and I already said this, that I don't think that she did a very good job presenting any compelling evidence at all. I mean, but I didn't see the last hour, right? But what I saw, I didn't feel like she presented a very strong case at all. I feel like I could have presented a stronger case than she did, and I also find it strange that she's like slow dripping information. After a year about this, it's kind of like, come out with it, let everybody know what you think, and let the defense have as much information as possible. If you truly don't believe the narrative, you should not want somebody that is innocent to be convicted, and you shouldn't. I feel like her focus is monetizing this, and so yeah, I'm not a big fan either side. I thought he was like super obnoxious.
Okay, and appreciate that, Dan. That's what we're debating now, Rob. Rob, you just said they were debating who won the debate. But I want to bring in Trillion.
Let me just say one thing. I will say, to his point, if the whole premise of the debate was that she had to prove that he was a patsy, by that premise, I thought, she did not succeed. So I will give him that.
Well, there was two premises. So one was she had to prove that he was a patsy, but then on the other hand, Andrew Wilson had to prove that it was Tyler Robinson.
And like I said, I thought neither did a good job. I thought neither did a good job presenting on either side. I wasn't compelled in either direction after listening. Granted, I did not see the last hour, but what I saw, I didn't see compelling evidence on either side.
Fair enough. That's a fair enough analysis. Trillion, I wanted to bring you in because I know we've got a lot more. I think we've got more people on the other side at the moment. But Trillion, the question to you is that one of the points you talked about, which is evidence that it was Tyler Robinson. You'd mentioned that I believe Andrew Wilson argued that there was a visual CCTV evidence in the debate. Then she responded, and then so what was your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so Candace introduces that the most of the hearing was under 1102, which is like this hearsay standard in Utah, okay? And it genuinely was. So people will say DNA isn't hearsay, not the whole like preliminary is hearsay. I think we could all sort of agree to that. But there was a lot said under the auspices of hearsay, and one of those things was the identification of Tyler Robinson. It is true, in my opinion, and many others, that there is no actual clear pictures that identify specifically Tyler Robinson. You have a lot of cameras, you have Flock, you have all this stuff, and the best we have are like partial license plates, and so basically, if you really try to run it down, there is no clear image that shows Tyler Robinson, especially not on the roof or after the fact. Andrew's response to it is that it was good enough for Tyler's parents. So Tyler's parents were shown a photograph. They thought it looks like Tyler Robinson, and therefore they identified these pictures as good as anybody could possibly do it. A parent knows their child, But that was the debate over identification.
Yeah, let me bring Jake into that aspect of it and see what he's got to say. And I was actually wrong. There's actually 4 people on the panel who are for Candace. There's 4 people on the panel who are for Andrew Wilson, and then we've got 2 like Myron and Dan who are kind of neutral. So
I'll wait, but I've been waiting for a minute.
Oh, sorry, Bryson. It's your,
no. Go ahead. Let's go first.
Yeah, and by the way, what happens on X Spaces is when you put your hand up, it ends up dropping it. So I can't see your hand right now. The only hand up at the moment is yours. So just to let you know, that doesn't mean that I'm ignoring you. It means that your hand's dropped, and I assume that you didn't want to talk anymore. But it also is a glitch on X as well, so you never know who wants to talk. So just put your hand up again, guys, if you want to add to the conversation. But sorry, go ahead, whoever I mentioned. Jake, I think it was.
Yeah, so look, with Andrew, his point that he's trying to look at the totality of the evidence. So he's looking at the roommate, he's looking at the partner, Lance Twiggs, he's looking at the DNA, and then he's looking at the shell casings, he's looking at the confession note, he's looking at the Discord posts and the text messages and all these sorts of things and saying, well, this is convincing me that Tyler Robinson is guilty. And he said 75 to 85%. I thought that was like a good faith sort of way to say it. Whereas Candace was saying that she believes it's 0% possible. And so, look, I appreciate that at least Dan can be a little bit better faith than the other guys and say, well, I can concede at this point and this point that she didn't really prove it. But these guys are basically saying that she won the debate because of a series of questions that they have about other aspects that weren't really a part of the debate. So, I mean, I haven't really still seen any evidence that she provided in the debate that would actually.
But Jake, what's your response to that about there being their argument, which is that actually when you look at the images, you can't identify Tyler Robertson. That was something they discussed in the debate. What was your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, if you want to say that there's reasonable doubt, and if your whole thing is, well, I think that there's a bunch of different anomalies here and there could be reasonable doubt, I think that that's a perfectly reasonable position to have. And even if you want to say that there's a bunch of things that could maybe give motives for other people who would want to kill Charlie Kirk and that should be investigated, then that's 100% a reasonable position to take. But then the problem is when you have other claims about other people who you think killed them and everything, and you're saying, well, definitively, I think that this is what happened. Or if you're saying it's 0% chance that Tyler Robinson was the killer, that's where she ran into a bunch of the trouble, and that's where she could not substantiate it. So this is why she lost the debate, because she had to substantiate that, and then she couldn't provide any evidence for this.
Okay, let me bring in someone from the other side, and then I'll go to Bryson. Uncle Tom, did you want to respond to what Jake had to say there?
Yeah. Yeah, let me just add here. I mean, just listening to Rob, Myron, Bryce, and Jay. I mean, it's like I could just tune into CNN, honestly, if I just wanted to hear all this. I don't even know why.
Make an argument, dude. We don't have that much time. Make an argument.
But yeah, so going back to what you guys were saying earlier, I just want about the crime scene being paved. I wanted to add Utah Code 77-23203. In that the SUV is also a crime scene, having biological traces, containing a body. And so this should have been seized, and yet it was auctioned. I want to say, don't quote me on this, within 14 days. It was definitely less than 30 days, but I think it was within 14 days. I get a fact check below Artifacts, who actually is former TPUSA.
Yeah,
so
it was shipped
he's
to
done
a
some
different
research
country.
on this. Yeah, I didn't even know it was shipped to a different country. So that right there is evidence. I mean, there could be.
We were talking about the debate, and this is derailing it, by the way, Suleiman. We were actually talking about the evidence in the debate, and it's once again being derailed.
Yeah. The crime scene. Oh, so wait, the crime
scene
scene didn't come up in the debate? I thought the crime scene came up in the debate.
No. This time I specifically asked, because I feel like whenever I ask a question, then I guess goes on off track. So my specific question was about the visual identification of Tyler Robinson. Trillian made the argument that there was no way one could visually identify Tyler Robinson. Jake said, look, I can see there's nothing. I mean, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But Jake said, look, they may not be, but when you put all the information together in terms of the other points, then there is. But yeah, no one's saying that there is certainty. So I'm saying, what's your response to Jake in terms of the visual identification of Tyler Robinson?
Sure. I said that in the beginning, actually, if you recall, about the totality. Wilson didn't give an option to looking at the totality of anomalies that occurred that essentially is everything you'd want if you were trying to frame a patsy. All of these different anomalies that Dan alluded to, the different aircraft in and out of the area, the different alleged lies, in my opinion, that TPUSA has been caught in.
I get it by the totality. Okay, let's get.
So the things that didn't come up in the debate.
Yeah.
So you're assuming how that would have gone.
So I want to bring in. Sorry, Myron, I'm going to say something quickly because I want to bring Bryson. He's been waiting for ages.
No. I just want to say the dude's a faggot. That's all. Fucking retard.
Okay.
I wasn't caught, but there's pictures of you with men in bed, isn't there? Like, so, right. Okay. So you might want to be careful about throwing that around.
And you're on an Anon account being a faggot.
We'll be back in a sec, guys. We'll be back in a sec. We'll be back in a second, guys.
Things, and we're talking about this part of the debate between Andrew and Candace, but Trillian left out probably the most important part, and I think Jake alluded to it. So you can't ask a question about the debate and say visually. No. We have to include the entire portion of that debate, which is Andrew told you that Tyler said it was him in the stairwell. Matter of fact, I quote, he said, "It was me. Look at the pictures from the surveillance footage. It was me. I am serious." And this is a quote that is in the official prosecution court filing. So this is official in court that Tyler Robinson said this on Discord. So when we claim that we don't know visually, I mean that's cute, but we clearly know because he admitted it. And on the second thing, I saw the last guy who was hurling all the insults, the Uncle Tom guy, saying this, and Dan said it too. Saying you think something weird isn't an argument, nor is it evidence of anything. It doesn't mean, it has zero value. Saying a bunch of anomalies because you thought something was weird means absolutely nothing. Like it has
Can I
no
respond to
meaning.
that?
Let him finish his point first. Go ahead, Bryson.
So when you, and the example is Andrew gave evidence for his claim. He said it, and then said Tyler admitted it was him. Boom, bada bang. That's evidence if you agree with it or not. When the text message was brought up, he told you that the text message was real based on the court, and Candace just said it felt weird because people don't talk like that. This is not a debate tactic. This is just feelings and emotions.
Bryson, and on the specific point that I asked, what about the argument that was made by Trillian that there is no ability or no, from the visuals that we've got, one can't identify Tyler Robinson?
I see Bryson and Solomon real quick. I mean, I just threw that up there. We have Lance Twig that says the last two definitely look like him, talking about Tyler Robinson. So, I mean, you guys can look up the word definitely, but I mean, he was ID'd by his parents, by himself, by Lance Twigs. So to sit here and pretend that you can't ID someone from those pictures is kind of ridiculous.
Okay.
That's stretching the truth.
Joe, go ahead, respond.
Yeah, look, the thing with the parents, you don't know that. You have it on charging documents. That is not a statement from his parents. That is a statement from the prosecution. So you can't prove that yet. Lance Twigg says he wasn't sure, didn't recognize the hat. Could be him. Definitely looks like him in terms of build and things like that, but couldn't be 100% positive. So you're stretching
like
that
a
as well.
14-second video. No, you are. Joe, I have a 14-second
did I
video that you can go
interrupt
look
you?
at it.
Did I interrupt you? You can disprove me as soon as I'm done speaking. All right. The thing is if this is actually about the debate and who won and they want to look at evidence, there is evidence that on X you're never going to get because there's a bias. But when you look at the betting markets dropped in terms of what percentage you believe Tyler Kirk will be convicted. It dropped to 35% after that debate, showing that people were less convinced were more convinced that it was not Tyler after this reaction than they were convinced that it was Tyler. So if you want to look at evidence and talk about evidence, that's evidence that Andrew lost the debate based on people who had money on whether Tyler is getting convicted or not.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know. I'm sure you guys don't love that because you have your opinion in your panties in a bunch about it. But the public voted with their money, and now they believe Tyler's less likely to be convicted than they were after Andrew's work. So Andrew did a great job of convincing the people that he's innocent.
If I may,
can we let Paramount respond to that if that's okay? Because he's the one who's making the other claim about I think he's got an alternative claim about the what was said by Lance Twigs. Go ahead, Paramount.
There it is, guys.
Feel free down in the purple pill. I literally have like a 14-second video
for you guys
where Tyler Robinson, and I quote, "The last two that definitely looks like him," unquote. And then he goes on to say Tyler Robinson.
Was he coached? Was he coached?
No, he was not coached. What evidence do you have that he's
indicated
coached?
to him to correct what he just said?
No.
Really?
No.
Oh.
Do you have proof of that?
Yes, he's got 4 other people in the room.
Yes, it was leading questions. That was brought up 1,000 times.
What are you talking about? Go watch the video. So first of all, that's the exact
what was the leading question, Joe?
The defense argued that there were leading questions, and I wish Octavia was still up here because she ran it down really well of what the defense didn't do. There was multiple leading questions that many lawyers on X and all over the place, even on mass media, has reported that the prosecution used a lot of leading questions in this. It didn't matter so much because this is really about whether the case goes forward or not, but that he was led in the conversation.
May I respond?
Right? And when it comes to the parents' information, that parents' information is from a charging doc. And I keep repeating this. It seems not to get through to them. A charging doc is the prosecution's interpretation. On top of it, The police didn't speak to the parents about that subject. That's coming from Mitchell, the guy who brought him in, right?
No, it's
So this
not.
is a
That
third
is that
party.
is
Yes, it is.
Please,
This is
no,
a
it's
third
not.
party
That's sworn
reporting
affidavit.
on that the
That's a
parents said
sworn
it.
affidavit.
Yeah,
okay,
not
if
from
I
the
may, real
parents.
quick.
Here's what it says.
Not
Twigs
from the
explicitly
parents.
said Twigs explicitly said that he could not identify the person with 100% certainty because of camera quality. He based the "definitely looks like him" comment mainly on clothing, shoes, sunglasses,
No,
jeans,
he
habit of
didn't. He
wearing a
says
hat,
the
rather
last.
than a clear facial
What are you
recognition.
talking about? You guys
Because
just
that's what he
lie.
said.
What are
You
That was
you,
a
don't even
lie.
Trillion?
listen. You
Wait,
don't even
wait,
watch your own
stop,
content.
guys. Can I just? I want to clarify this. Trillion, it sounds like you're reading from somewhere. What was it? What is it? Is this some document or something? What,
This
where he
is
says
this is
transcript?
no. It's just a summary of It's quoted from the transcript of the testimony because it was pre-recorded, right? It was
Okay.
pre-recorded. Lance is in Texas. He wasn't at the. He should be able to face his accusers, all that, and he got immunity for the statement.
Okay.
If I may,
What's your
can
response to that, Rob or Tactical or whoever? Go ahead.
Yeah, may I? So let me say a couple things. First off, even if we had no video evidence, you would still be able to have probable cause and probably prove this case because of the physical evidence, because of the confessions, etc. Secondly, not only does this look like him, you're right, though, we can't 100% say it's him from the publicly available pictures. However, it's not just his confession it was him. It's not just the allegations that his parents called him and said it's him. Remember, the whole story is, how in the world would the conversation with the parents that ever led to him turning himself in have occurred if they didn't at some point think it was their kid? And the reason they thought it was their kid was because they saw the pictures. We also have his license plate that was confirmed to be both at the scene of the gun and at the campus. And lastly, even if we look at the Discord messages on September 11th, here's some of the messages that his friends were making. You ready? Hey, where you at? It was his doppelganger that was trying to get me in trouble. Tyler killed Charlie. Only if I get a cut. These were his friends saying, holy shit, Tyler, that looks exactly like you. What Tyler was responding to them at the point was, lol, that wasn't me. Then the next day he admits, guys, I'm sorry to say it was me. In addition, Candace's own claim is that a waiter at a steakhouse saw from the publicly available pictures the same photos we've all seen and said, that's Tyler Robinson. I recognize him. So we have even the people Candace is claiming supposedly saw him, all are saying, based on the grainy photos, they identified Tyler
He said
Robinson.
the voice, Rob. Come on, dude. He said he recognized him by the voice.
No, he said he recognized the pictures.
No, he said the voice.
Can you explain to me why the friends on Discord thought it looked like Tyler Robinson if it clearly doesn't?
Well, I know that Discord came out with the FBI's initial report that he planned this on Discord, and Discord came out and said that never existed on our servers. And then the FBI came up with an alternative theory, and now he was admitting that it was that to his friends after he had said it wasn't. Like,
Yeah,
do you
Discord
understand why
publicly
people have
stated
doubts?
the specific messages about planning details, retrieving the rifle, drop point, leaving it wrapped in a towel, bush, engraving, bullets, scope, that Utah officials, including Spencer Cox, initially described based on what Robinson's roommate showed investigators by photographing his screen did not appear to be Discord messages.
Right. The FBI
So this was
lying to
issued
us
September
once again,
12th.
and they got
This
caught.
was issued September 12th, 2025, including People, TMZ, Fox, Verge, Newsmax.
Wait, I'm not even sure. Maybe I misheard you. The FBI initially said on September 12th that it wasn't Discord messages, that it was text messages?
Discord publicly
No,
stated that it.
he planned it on
Discord
Discord.
said he didn't plan it. Discord didn't deny the dang on actual Discord message that's in the affidavits that's already
Yes,
in
but
court
Bryson,
right now.
you're missing the point. Why did the FBI come out and say he planned this on Discord? Right? With his
Joel, you're
furry
changing the
friends?
conversation.
No,
Rob
you
brought
are.
up him admitting it was Rob brought up them saying it was
Can I
him
finish
in
without
the
you
pictures.
interrupting? Can you finish without him interrupting? I'm giving you the full picture. I'm giving people listening the full picture that the FBI initially said he planned this on Discord. And then after Discord came out and said that's BS, those messages don't exist on our server, then the FBI walked that back, right? So why did the FBI come to a conclusion that he planned this on Discord with his friends, and this was some type of like multiple people in this organization doing this, when it was complete BS. And then you wonder why people have doubts in this case.
Can you, real quick, Myron, please, real quick, can you show me proof that the FBI said he planned this on Discord? Joe, you just made the claim. Can you show me the proof that the FBI said he planned this on Discord?
While Joe looks for that, I do want to say this for the people that, you know, and again, this is coming from someone that still isn't convinced by either, but I do think it's important to note that Tyler Robinson's defense, who understands this is literally for all the marbles, it's a death sentence case. They brought in lawyers from California, right, that specialize in this. Why have none of the lawyers utilized any of the alternative theories in their defense? I mean, let's think about it. Who has a vested interest in Tyler Robinson winning this case to the highest degree? Why has his defense not utilized any of your retarded fucking conspiracy theories?
It's called variance doctrine. Variance doctrine. So they will utilize variance doctrine.
Now you're mad. Now you're mad. Hold on. Let me finish what I'm saying.
Well, let Myron finish, but then I do think someone needs to answer the question.
And again, this is coming from someone who's in the middle, who's kind of like, okay, I'm not convinced with either one, but I do think it's very interesting how the people that have the highest vested interest in Tyler Robinson winning this case have not brought up any of the fucking piece of evidence that you guys are talking about, whether it's a steak restaurant, the ballistic stuff with the 30-06, body double, exploding microphones, etc. The people that need this defense the most have not utilized any of these alternative theories. So I would say, with that said, and just so you guys know, this was just at the preliminary hearing, they could have used any of this stuff to create
Can someone check if that sound is also happening on the other spaces?
We're trying to establish probable cause.
Space,
it
or
was
is it
actually
just
the
mine?
defense
I might have to
that
reload
asked
it.
for stuff to not be put in. For example, like the video footage of him being on top of the Losi Center. The defense asked for that to not come in. So if anything, it was the defense suppressing a lot of the evidence coming in from the state. So I just want to hear that. Why have the defense not used any of your alternative theories?
Myron,
I get that. I mean, let's be honest here. This dude's going to jail, right? It's like we're losing sight of what a patsy is. This guy's obviously going to jail. We don't know what he was involved in.
No, but you're not
he could have had illicit.
Uncle Tom, you're not asking the question. Specifically,
why any of your theories be used by the defense, buddy? Since you're so fucking smart.
It's a state. Why you're saying? Why is a pretender, a public pretender, not be effective? Why is a public pretender not effective? Is that your question?
Do you know who his lawyers are? See, this is how I know you didn't watch the preliminary hearing and you don't know what you're talking about. They brought in lawyers from California that specialize in the death penalty, my friend. Whenever you have a death penalty case, they bring in competent counsel to deal with capital punishment. This is another example of an idiot.
She's never won, Myron. She's never won a case, by the way. She's never won a capital death case.
Okay. Because capital death cases, a lot of the times, the government and or the state knows what they're doing, but that does not refute the fact that she's still competent counsel. She's competent counsel, and then they brought in 2 other lawyers to help her on the team from California.
Yeah, she's just a career public defender.
But Joe, or what you call it, Annual Trillion, can you answer Myron's question of why? If I vaguely remember Candace answering this question, but if you guys want to elaborate, because I'm not been following.
I'm going to quickly refresh this, guys. Annoying. That's better.
As defense, if they at trial.
No, he's asking why didn't they?
Dude, no, because they agreed upon what the case was about. Like, you have to have things that are commonly asserted as fact. They accepted that Charlie was killed by a gunshot. Like, they have to prove that Tyler isn't the one who shot him. That's it. They don't have to prove exploding anything. Like, they get tens of thousands of emails. Barron actually had a funny thing about this. He's like, the defense thinks everyone's nuts. Like, they don't check their emails. Of course they're not going to.
And Suleiman, can I answer this?
So
like,
the
defense,
okay.
Myron, can I answer my point? Because, look, the defense, the easiest way to win this is to prove that he's not there, not to actually prove an alternative theory. That would be a harder win, right?
Agreed.
And what the defense brief said is that he wasn't there. This is what they are alleging in the defense brief. So they're going to prove or try to prove that he wasn't at that location. He was not at the location, right? And I honestly believe that it's going to come down to the parents' testimony.
Joe,
right?
no
'Cause to
offense,
me-
that's not true, bro. They concede that he was
What's not
there.
true?
They 100% concede that he was there, dude. Come on, man.
No, they
They
didn't.
they
Go
they
look at the
did.
defense
They
brief.
did.
They
No,
said
they
he was
did.
in the stairwell.
They did,
They're
but
literally in
the defense
brief.
doesn't present their case
don't.
chief at the preliminary hearing stage.
They say,
So
look, in the
they don't.
defense brief, it says the state wants you to believe. That's what it says. That's what you missed, Paramount. And that's why it got community
it
noted.
doesn't. No, it doesn't say
Yes,
that.
it does. In the
Not on
paragraph
that
right
portion about the
before.
spare. Not on the portion about the stairwell.
It's in the same section.
If I can, there's a misunderstanding here, I think. The defense files basically a motion to dismiss that's arguing, even if the state's case is true, here's why we shouldn't get the capital death penalty. I accept that. However, Joa, once more, you're wrong. You've been making definitive claims. I'm unaware anywhere in the pretrial hearing where the defense definitively said he wasn't on campus. Can you show me that? While you're looking for evidence that you were going to provide previous,
I gave you,
FBI
I already
said he
posted the thing
plans.
about Discord, which you can go look in the comments, and I'll go get the other one of the defense brief where they're arguing that he's not there. And what Paramount did, there is a paragraph where they don't repeat the state wants you to believe, but it is in between a paragraph that says the state wants you to believe, and afterwards it says the state wants you to believe. To assume that one, they're like, oh yeah, that was Tyler in the staircase, is a bit ignorant of the whole document, and you're picking out parts in order to try to make your case. But
No,
that's not how things work.
And you were right, Joe. You were right. The defense didn't concede identity. You were right about that.
So let me ask someone a question and then do respond, because again, I'm only basing it on what I saw in the debate. Did Candace not make the argument during the debate that the reason why, and I don't know the veracity of this claim, but did she not make the argument that the reason why these alt theories have not been used in the defense, because I believe Andrew did bring this up, her argument was that because in this stage of the hearing, the defense doesn't mount their own case or alternative perspectives. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct. That's
but
absolutely correct.
That was said in the debate. Is that okay? So that's confirmed. But then is she right as well?
Yes. Octavia, the attorney, actually just confirmed that. That is not the stage where they have to present a defense of anything. It's the prosecution's job.
Andrea Burkhart said the exact opposite. She stated that if they were going to present an affirmative defense that he wasn't there, that they would do that at the probable cause. That would negate the probable cause. They do not have an alibi. They wouldn't have probable cause if he had an alibi for where he was and that he wasn't there. That's just ridiculous.
Go ahead, Bryson, jump in.
I just wanted to say that the defense have separated themselves from any crazy conspiracies or conspiracy theory people from the internet. They didn't say Candace Owens by name, but the defense has literally been trying to separate from the conspiracies.
I don't know what the point of that was, but
If I can, real quick. So again, there are half truths here. There is a half truth that the defense does not have to provide their alternative theory. And the reason why is this. For a probable cause hearing, imagine that there are three competing theories. Even if all three are equally likely, the state could still win that's probable cause. Now, at the trial, an alternative theory that's likely would cast reasonable doubt. So there are times when the defense doesn't want to provide the best defense or what their actual theory is going to be. They're going to say that. They're under no obligation. However, many of the theories that are being expounded upon by Candace, which are that the feds are intentionally setting him up as a patsy by manipulating photo, by lying about the testimony of Tyler Robinson's parents. Yes, the defense absolutely would have talked about that because that speaks to misconduct by the prosecutors. And they certainly would be presenting that evidence as soon as they could. And yet they presented none of it.
Do you not remember the civil contempt of court?
What?
The judge held the prosecutor in civil contempt of court.
For what?
You're saying that there's been no...
For what?
For sharing the information about the ATF report.
Yes, you proved my point. So yes, they shared information that the judge admonished them.
No, but you're saying that the defense didn't counter anything. Of course they did.
Can I please make my point? What I'm saying is the defense did not bring up any of the theories that Candace is saying there's proof of that shows that the feds are setting up as a patsy. The fact that they did speak up about certain things they didn't like the feds were doing, but somehow are holding in their back pocket that the feds are manipulating photos.
Okay, what about the backpack?
Please, let me finish, and then I promise you can respond. They're withholding the fact that they have proof that the feds are alleging the parent said this, and they absolutely know the parents and say this, and the parents for some reason are remaining silent, which makes no sense why they would let their kid go through the death penalty when all they have to do is stand up and say law enforcement's lying in their prosecution documents. We never said any of this. Why wouldn't the defense bring this up?
Okay, so you're using absence of evidence as evidence of anything. What about the backpack, right? She brings this up. There was a backpack that was found. It was on where the killer would have been walking, right, on that path. And it was found to belong to someone at Turning Point USA, so they just returned the backpack. And her question is like, well, it wouldn't be the first time that somebody from around Charlie would have been involved, could have been involved in some crime. Why would they just release the backpack without even processing it?
So again, here we go. It's like whack-a-mole. They make a claim, we answer the claim. It's like, okay, what
claim?
about the
What did you answer? What's your answer?
I just asked you a question. I said, if they already challenged what they saw as misconduct by the prosecution team, and they have evidence that the prosecution is literally setting them up as a patsy because they're manipulating photos, because they're literally lying about what the parents said, why wouldn't they raise those objections? And you're like,
what did they say the parents said specifically?
We know they're manipulating photos, Rob. That's been proven.
That's not true.
Right?
We'll
They flipped the image in the stairwell to make it look like he was going to P1.
All right,
we know that.
whack-a-mole. Here we go. Whack-a-mole. Number one.
It's not whack-a-mole. That's proven.
Yes. Let me deal with these one by one. First off, Detroit's response. Like
Rob's
when
a
it
beast,
came
man.
to what the parents
Rob
said,
is a
they
beast.
alleged that the parents had this whole conversation. Mom originally called Tyler and said, "Oh my God, that looks like you. Where are you?" And Tyler said, "I'm at home sick." And she's like, "Okay." Then Mom showed Dad the footage, and Dad was like, "Oh my God, that's our son." So he calls Tyler. He's like, "Son, that looks like you." Tyler starts like crying or something, it seems like, and says, "I'm thinking of you."
Rob, you repeated this like 10 times. You repeated this 10 times. You don't have to hear it again. You don't have that from the parents.
Okay, 1 second. Let him finish his point. Go ahead, Rob. Finish your point.
But you don't have that from the parents. He's repeated it 10 times already, Solomon.
Just let him. Yeah, no, but let him finish his point because I don't want him to. I feel bad because he's screaming. Go ahead, Rob.
I'm not screaming. This is how I talk. He asked me allegedly what the parents said. Now, the argument that Joe is going to make here is, but the parents didn't say that. That was hearsay. Which I'm saying is, if the prosecution is specifically saying something and the parents came to them and said, "That's bullshit. We never said that," then the prosecution's engaged in misconduct by not reporting what the parents actually said. But for some reason, the defense isn't providing the evidence that, like, look, the parents never said that. The prosecution's relying on statements that the parents are willing to testify they never made. Why are the parents silent? Why isn't the defense raising these objections? This would prove prosecutorial misconduct. And yet they're silent. Now, when it comes to the question real quick of manipulating photo evidence, no, Candace and company have been wrong the entire time. It turns out many of these security cameras are a wide angle lens and do flip horizontally. If the prosecution had manipulated that footage to make it look like it was corrected, then Candace and everyone on here would be saying the prosecution refused to show the raw security footage.
Did the judge have a problem?
That's negating that they said P1 when it was P2.
Did the judge have a problem with their clipped together spliced video with circles? Even the judge said this is ridiculous. What you're talking about with the parents, you made that whole thing up. None of that is true. It says the mom sees the photos. Hold on. The mom sees the photos the day after. The father contacts Robinson about the rifle. Then there's a conversation that takes place, a phone conversation between the father and Tyler. Then they reach out to whoever it is. They meet at their house. They go and turn in Tyler. All the rest of this stuff, you don't have any of it anywhere. I know it's in the charging documents. The friend, Mike Mitchell, that talks to the sheriff, says that he got information that either Tyler was involved with it or that he did it. It says it right in the charging. He's not even clear that he killed him. Can you imagine a scenario that Tyler is involved with this, but he's just not the shooter?
I mean, just to be clear, like we're dealing with multiple things, I'll get the quotes of what the parents said. If it's true that the parents didn't say this and didn't call them, why aren't they speaking up? I'll get the direct quotes that I was reading.
Because it's obvious.
He misrepresented
lawyer
what was said.
advice.
You completely misrepresented what was said.
Let Rob finish his point, please.
Secondly, to speak to the point of like saying it's P1 and P2, what we see Trillion did was once more he provided evidence that the defense would speak up. The defense, when they were marking the pictures, spoke up and said, hey, wait a minute, you shouldn't be allowed to mark those pictures. The judge said yes, but I'm to believe the defense is sitting on evidence that the the prosecution intentionally manipulated this video and they're just letting it slide. When they spoke up when there was a red circle, but for some reason they're allowing the manipulation of the video to slide. Why would the defense do that?
No, because their defense is that you can't identify him.
No, why wouldn't the defense, if the defense says there's a red circle, that's manipulation, you can't do that. And the judge says, I agree. If the defense knows that they manipulated by shrinking the video or flipping it horizontally, why isn't the defense saying, my God, they shrunk the video, they flipped it horizontally?
It's entered under hearsay. First off, they did push back on this stuff. Like you're just expecting a trial.
The video evidence is not hearsay. The video evidence is not hearsay.
No, it's about the identification part of it. Like you can have video of whatever you want. You need somebody to come along and say, yes, that's Tyler Robinson in the video. That's hearsay.
That's what Lance did.
Oh my God!
And yes,
dude.
while
even smart
his video, yeah, okay. Hey, real quick, Solomon, since we were talking about this earlier, can I actually read the state's or the defense brief that does indeed concede that it is Tyler Robinson in the stairwell, real quick?
Yeah.
So this is a quote from the defense brief. The state presented no evidence to support any inference that the rifle was in pieces at any time. The video evidence shows Mr. Robinson walking up and down the stairs at UVU with gait impaired by something long in his pants. The reasonable inference from the evidence provided is that it was fully assembled rifle. They're not even denying that it was a rifle. The presence of a screwdriver on the roof does not establish that the rifle was taken apart and put back together, and more than it establishes that the screwdriver was intended to take the rifle apart after the shooting. So there's where that statement is. And now I'll read from the actual charging documents about the parents identifying Tyler Robinson. It says Robinson's father reported that when his father showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle the police suspected the shooter used matched a rifle that was given to his son as a gift. As a result, Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle. Robinson did not respond. However, Robinson's father spoke on the phone with Robinson. Robinson implied that he planned to take his own life. Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet them at their home. As to discuss the situation, Robinson implied that he was a shooter and stated he couldn't go to jail. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained, there is too much evil, and the guy, Charlie Kirk, spreads too much hate. That is an admission in of itself.
Trillion misrepresented.
Again, do you know what a charging document is?
What are you talking about? Why do we even need a trial?
Wait, let me ask a question. Is that, where did you read that from, Paramount? Was that from the charging document?
Yeah, so that is from the charging document. I believe I have this cut, but it is, I believe, from page 6.
Guys. He's
so,
an absolute
if I remember
beast.
right, in the debate, the argument was that the charging document
literally
was a document
STR,
produced by the
beast,
prosecution,
best of the best,
and that
creme de la creme.
Candace's claim was that the parents never actually said that. So I guess that's where the disagreement on this space is. I think Joe and Trillion are. Just 1 second, please. Joa and Trillion are arguing that the parents didn't say it. Yourself and everybody else are arguing, and Uncle Tom as well, and are arguing that they did so. So I guess it's just for the audience to understand what's going on. But I've got a question for you, a bit selfish, 2 questions for Jake and Rob. The first question is, Andrew Wilson, when he went to TPUSA, how much was he paid? And the reason for the question is that, I don't know, I've got this inkling that maybe he was paid like maybe close to $300,000, but what is it? How much, does anybody have any idea how much he was paid to go to TPUSA for debate training?
Why do you have that inkling?
Because, I mean, he pulled out with 300,000, right? So I'm assuming he's not like a multi-millionaire where he can just throw £300,000 for $3,000 for a debate. And so the argument is that maybe TPUSA helped fund it. That would be a way to do it. So
sure, I mean,
how much
but you said you don't think he's a multi-millionaire. What do you think he is?
Okay, so I mean in the sense of he wouldn't have $300,000 to just throw away on a debate.
Demonstrate that.
Okay, my question is, how much was he paid?
Well,
Was he paid
No,
give, send,
first
go.
of all,
a give, send, go. That's
Uncle Tom, I'm
demonstrating
actually I'm answering the question here, not you. So be quiet.
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
So Suleiman, what makes you think? I'm actually just genuinely curious. What makes you think that he wouldn't have that?
It's not that he wouldn't have it, because look, being a YouTuber, $300,000 is a lot of money, and to just give that away just to have a debate with Candace Owens on an issue that you don't know inside out. He quite clearly admitted on the day that he didn't really know the topic inside out. It was quite clear that he didn't.
Regardless
to the same
of
extent.
regardless of
so
that.
the point is, when you're gonna give, I'm answering the question.
Yeah.
I'm answering the question. So when you're basically, for example, gonna be giving $300,000 for a topic that you're not really passionate about, you do it as per this debate. People said that he went to visit TPUSA and then
who said he wasn't passionate?
Yeah.
I was just about to say it. I'm explaining. Why do you keep interrupting? I don't get it.
Go for it, Suleiman, then I'll respond.
Yeah. So, and even on this debate, the argument Rob made was that when he went to TPUSA, he saw the feelings of the people in the TPUSA. That's when he came out and did what he did. So the point being is to give $300,000 in that situation, it does for me raise questions, and so therefore for that reason I'm thinking, is it that for that debate that he was given $300,000 or maybe even $100,000 or $200,000, and then that was a way for TPUSA to give him the money for him to then give it to Candace? So that's a serious question to have. It could be wrong. It could be he was only paid $5,000, and then this question is irrelevant, because then it means that this thought that I have and maybe some others have is kind of just off. It isn't relevant. So that's kind of why I was asking the question.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that all of the bases and all of the premises that you've got are basically just flat wrong. So first of all, he's got one of the most super chatted channels in the entire world, and especially in the entire country of the United States. Second of all, to say that he's not passionate about it, he doesn't know it inside out. That you're just sort of you're just making that up, really. I don't know where you got that from.
I'll go from the debate. I mean, he didn't even know the 7 charges.
Well, he did the debate.
Candace. Is she not passionate?
She said the 7 charges.
No, she didn't. She misstated one.
Like, how disingenuous can you be, Rob?
But yeah, she also had no evidence. So at least Andrew had evidence. So I guess you could infer that he's passionate because he had a bit of evidence.
Zigzag.
But just quickly, to say that he doesn't have the money, you don't know that. Like, there is no way for you to know that. And if you did just look at the evidence of his financial situation, you can just look at it on Social Blade, for example.
Jake, I know more than you do.
What you can do, Trillion, is just be quiet. That'd be best. That'd be best if you could just be quiet when I'm talking.
$200,000.
Trillion, if you could just be quiet when I'm giving the answer, that'd be awesome too. That'd be good too if you could just be quiet when I'm talking.
All right, fair enough. Okay, I think you answered the question. And the second question I had, Jake. Second question to Jake. 1 second. The second question I had was, and again, if you guys can clarify, because I've not been following this bit of the case. So apparently the claim is that Erica came out and said that there were no more text messages, as in there was no more text messages pertaining to Charlie admitting X, Y, and Z. There's a video clip going out on X. And then on the debate, obviously, Andrew Wilson pulls out with a new text message, which was provided to him by TPUSA. So was Erica lying, or what was going on there? If you guys can clarify.
Yeah,
I have no idea about that.
First, I'd like to speak to the first claim, then I'll speak to the second. The first claim, you're putting words in my mouth. I didn't say that all of a sudden he became passionate about this after he talked. I said you did see down there that people were devastated, and that's fucking evil. As Jake said, he was already talking about this issue a lot. So that's number one. Second, Trillion said that he absolutely knows that Brian Atlas paid $100,000. Prove it.
Prove what? Go through their own messages. So Wilson transfers the money to Candace. That gets verified. I forgot who verified it, but that got verified before the debate. Go through their own string of messages. They started at 50K, 60, 70, 80. Wilson jumps in. He says, I'll double it. Goes to 160, 180, 200.
Prove that he paid it, though, Doofus. That's what he's asking you to prove.
And says that it's $300,000. So
you're misspeaking. You're either lying or you're misunderstanding.
Go to their messages. Go to Brian. Let me finish. Dude, you're so disingenuous.
What's the evidence, though, Doofus? That's the question he's asking.
May I explain this, Jake? May I explain?
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it.
Brian Atlas initially wanted the debate on the Whatever podcast because it would have been really big business and got a lot of eyeballs and whatever. So I believe he initially offered $50,000, then he offered $100,000, then he offered $150,000. Andrew Wilson said, I'll match that. Brian wasn't offering to pay for Andrew to go on Candace Owens' show. He was offering to pay to host it on whatever. Andrew then goes on Joe Rogan and says she was offered $300,000 to debate me on this, which is true. Candace then says, fine, I'll take $500,000, but Turning Point has to admit that you're their boy and you have to come to my house next Friday to do it. Then she later lowers that to $300,000 and takes away the criteria of Turning Point have to admitting that he's their boy. Nowhere in does that prove that Brian Atlas, not being able to host the show, paid $100,000. You made the claim, prove it.
Okay, fair enough. Rob, wait 1 second. Can you answer the second question, though, Rob, please?
Yes, I'll answer the second question. I find the entire implication of the first question to be sort of duplicitous and getting out of a tight spot that the opponents were in here. But yes, to answer the second question, there are all sorts of reasons that Erica Kirk could have said that I didn't see these messages. Number one, it could be that Charlie Koch had multiple phones, his personal phone and one that he used for business, and she didn't see the text on the personal phone. Number two, she could have been saying, because people were accusing her of Turning Point being complicit in the killing to some degree, that she just wanted, for the sake of simplicity, to just be like, no, there was nothing like that. Number three, it could be that what she was referring to was there was no specific threats that he was specifically saying that he was worried about. What is important is Candace Owens definitively said she did not believe that those texts would say that he feared for his life from the left. She feared it was from Israel. And the text definitively says he feared for himself from the left. And instead of people admitting, once more, Candace Owens was wrong, everyone's just like, aha, this is further evidence that Erica Kirk's a liar. Once more attacking a grieving widow instead of saying, geez, the person that's making all of these allegations.
It came up
again.
during their meeting. You don't remember this? She denied that Charlie had a certain text message, and then Candace showed her that he did have it either in Signal or some other thing. That was so long ago. You don't even remember that?
Well, right.
She caught her on this already.
Let me see. So just to be clear.
And Andrew basically called Erica a liar because Erica said there were no messages, and then he showed a message from Erica, from Charlie Kirk. So basically, Andrew proved Erica lies. Thank you. He did do that. That evidence he did prove.
Just to be clear, now the argument is Candace Owens had this message and lied to everyone. It was about Israel. That's what we're being clear about. Lied and said it wasn't about the land.
It was always about donors, not Israel, dude, not the country. It was about the people in his donor pool who were messing with him, who were taking money, who were trying to manipulate him. That's who he's talking about. Dude, come on. A country killed him? What are you talking about?
He said, so just to be clear, Candace showed Erica Kirk a message from Signal that said my donors are going to kill me? That's your argument.
No, he said he's getting sick of these donors. He's getting sick of.
He's under a lot of pressure. Dude, this has been going on. You know, the ADL put him on an extremist hate list. The ADL.
So
you know that he's been going
Israelis?
through this for years. Look at what the Times of Israel was writing about the guy. He was losing donors. No, dude, because it's like you guys are trying to paint this picture that everything was just rosy, peachy keen. No, there were
When did we try and make that claim? When did we make that claim?
That was coming from his pro-Israel donors.
No one said it was peachy clean.
Rob just shouts, man. He never mutes.
Well, if you just be quiet and if you wouldn't speak over him the whole time,
guys, calm down. I want to hear what Rob's got to say. Go ahead, Rob.
Right. This is how I talk. Fuck you. First off, it seemed to be what you just suggested there was that Candace showed Erica Kirk these messages saying Charlie feared for his life. Now you're immediately backtracking and going, oh, no, she didn't show her that. She just showed text messages that said the donors are pissed. Okay, what's the relevance to Erica's claim about whether he feared for his life? Why even bring up that quote then? Why'd you bring it up?
How do you tell your kids off? Because it sounds like you're shouting. I mean,
are we just doing personal attacks, or are we going to get into the substance?
Oh my God, Jake, that is a joke. Because he said he shouts his normal.
I know that, but it's come up a bunch of times now. I think that
but listen, it's because it sounds like he's shouting and he's losing his voice.
That's fine. You can think that all you want.
So I made a joke of it, Jake. I mean, you guys? I thought you guys like humor. Now you don't like humor. It's just a joke. So how would you tell your kids off? Yeah, I know, but it's a joke. You don't have to get so emotional about it.
It was hilarious.
It's just a minor joke. It wasn't even that aggressive. Right. It was just because the whole point, I just explained the joke to you. It's like your tones are shouting, so how do you tell your kid? It wasn't that deep, bro.
All right.
I know. You're getting emotional. I'll get you a dummy in a second, Jake.
Okay.
But let me go to.
That was another great one. Bada boom.
Yeah, it is. It's going on. I'll teach you how to not be so sensitive. Yeah, I'll teach you not to be so sensitive.
I just want to read what Candace Owens said.
Go ahead, Bryson.
She said, I know for a fact a TPUSA employee had a text from Charlie the day before he died saying they are going to kill me. Her next immediate statement was he was not referring to the trans lobby when he wrote that message, and then she went on to imply it was about Israel.
Yep, she was wrong.
Anybody want to respond to that?
No one's talking about that. Instead,
Wait 1 second. Let Rob, let the other side respond to that, because that's a good, strong point. Joe, Trillian, or Uncle Tom, or Blake, anyone?
Yeah. Before we get too far away from the charging document, just to give people an example, and I'll answer your question, Solomon. In the OJ case, the charging document said that he booked a last-minute flight to Chicago. Meanwhile, they already knew that it was a routine promotion for Hertz. Okay. Then on the warrant, they wrote that they saw human blood in the Ford Bronco. Meanwhile, there were no field tests had been done, whether it was human blood or not. Then they also asserted that they jumped the wall because it was a emergency welfare check. Later, it was proved in court that they already had Simpson as the target and were doing a warrantless search. So constantly, charging documents have stuff that overstate or outright lie. So to use the parents' testimony when you have not seen the parents' testimony, you have seen their interpretation of it, is a problem. And this is why they keep pushing back on it. When it comes to the message, yes, she said she fears for her life. The problem is you have 2 weeks prior to when that supposedly happened, Harry sharing a message from one of Charlie Kirk's friends that Israel wants to kill Charlie. He fears for his life because of the Israeli lobby. That is a fact. So when she implies it, she can be implying it because there was a public message that Charlie was fearful for his life. Okay. And it was only because.
And let's not forget Harrison Smith.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Harrison Smith. When I said Harrison. And it was only because I asked Suleiman to pull Harrison Smith on this space to ask him if the FBI had ever spoken to him yet, that the very next day after we had that talk, the FBI called him. So what is FBI doing on spaces to get information when they're not collecting it themselves? That's insane. So it would be easy to infer that that's why when Charlie Kirk told his friend and Harrison Smith winded up giving that information to the FBI of who the source was.
Okay, two things. One, when it comes to the charging document, we moved on from that because Suleiman wanted to move on. I'm happy to talk about it. Trillian, will you acknowledge that I was correct and you were incorrect when you said that I misled that the charging document
I can't understand half the words you say because you're just screaming. I seriously, I can't understand
my
you,
voice.
Dude.
I lost my
Okay,
voice, so
well,
I have to
I don't
talk
know,
loud.
man.
Let me speak a little slower for you. Will you admit that you were wrong and misled people when you said the charging document didn't say what I said the parents said? Will you admit you were wrong?
Dude, I've read this document a million times. This is what proves your case, your argument sucks. You still have to go back to September. Hey, why do we even need trials? What's the point? You get a charging document, everything in there is good as gold.
He
Why
was
do we
killed
even
in
need a trial?
September, so that's kind of important to go back to
No,
September.
because
Trillian's
this is what
answer
makes
is
you
no,
so
he won't admit
disingenuous.
it.
This is what makes you so disingenuous.
He was killed in September. The crime happened in September. We need to go back to September.
Charging documents cannot be used as evidence for a reason.
That he was either involved or that he did it. There's an or. Do you see it? It wasn't clear that he is the shooter. That's what's in the charging document. That's the point of the trial. It's to convict him of being the shooter, and you guys still have to use like day one information.
Okay, so
which can't be used as evidence in the court of law, by the way, charging document.
So if
like you guys are doing.
If I could respond to this, what happened was I said, the mom said she recognized him, so she called him and he said, no, I'm homesick, that's not me. Then the dad thought he recognized him and he called his son and his son ultimately said, I'm thinking of, please let me finish. Why are you interrupting?
Wait, let Rob finish. Go ahead, Rob.
Suleiman, he's read this out like 12 times.
No, he's letting him talk because he's just.
It's a counter argument. You guys put forward the argument.
No,
now you're getting
let Rob finish his point, guys. I want to hear what he's got to say. Go ahead, Rob.
And I said, then he said, I'm thinking of ending my life. Trillian said, you're misrepresenting that. That's not what was said. Now Trillian's like, yeah, whatever, but who cares? It's way back from September.
Because you don't have a source.
Please, let me finish. Those are two different things. Saying that I'm misrepresenting what the charge document said and then being proven wrong and saying, yeah, but who cares? You don't have a source.
Because those are contested points.
Those are two different
I don't know what else to tell
point
you.
of
They're
this,
contested.
Please stop interrupting, please. So you were wrong. You said, and this is what
No,
you've done the whole
I am
time,
contesting what's in the document. It doesn't make me wrong. I'm telling you, it's contested what's in that document. Several things are contested in the document. You guys are just such
Okay,
babies
one
about
second,
it.
1 second. Let him finish his point, though, and then you can rebut. Go ahead, Andrew. Rob.
He was wrong. He said that's not what the charging document said. Now he's saying he said it is what it says, but you can't prove it. Those are two different
No idea
arguments.
what you're
The reason
talking
that
about.
I brought this up, the reason that I brought this up was, why wouldn't, when the prosecution saying the parents said this, and the parents know they didn't say it, and the defense knows they didn't say it, and that the prosecution is lying, why wouldn't they bring up the prosecution is intentionally lying in the prosecution document? Why wouldn't the parents speak up? Why wouldn't the defense? And the only argument I got,
defense is contesting their points. What are you talking about? Why won't they just let it be this way? Because there's a trial. They're contesting their allegations. What is so hard about this? What is so difficult to understand here? They're contesting what's in the documents.
Show me the defense contesting the parents said this.
They didn't. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, like
You guys are such
what is in the charging documents? Hold
Get
on.
us a quote. Get us a quote. You said it's
what's
recorded.
in the
Get us a
charging
quote.
documents? What's in the charging documents is not evidence, but what it is a testimony from the parents that's taken from the police that is for probable cause. And by the way, also in the charging affidavit, the same stories are in there as well, that the parents identified their son. They had these conversations with them. Now, they are going to, this is just laying out the case of what's going on. Hey, the parents have said this. You better believe that the parents have sworn affidavits that wasn't presented, but none of this is contested by the defense at all. And it's not going to be because when we get to the trial,
but I don't see the importance.
It wasn't presented. It's a probative
when we get to the
hearing.
trial,
It wasn't
let
presented.
me, when we get to the trial, the parents are going to be brought to the stand. But again, that is something that the freaking defense could have brought up during the probable cause hearing, and they didn't. And those statements from the parents are in multiple documents.
Okay, they were going to
Okay, let's go to
Trillian.
Trillian, do you want to respond to the argument?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because this is about an indictment. The defense is allowed to hold their cards close to their chest for trial. If the prosecution is putting on things that are weak and easy for them to impeach or disprove at the trial, that's their play. That's how the defense works. Whatever wasn't brought up, they had no reason to construct arguments for or to contest, right? The problem everybody has with Candace is that she is sort of front-running and contesting the stuff, and you all admit that it will be contested at trial. I don't understand why you guys
I'm not admitting it will be contested at trial
she's like
at all.
the most
It's
evil,
not going to be
vile,
contested at trial.
wretched person, dude. You say the most horrible things about her. Like you guys,
She
your
says the most
behavior
horrible
is
things
horrible.
about everybody.
What?
Okay, let's not. I'm not like. I want to.
Just quickly,
okay,
Suleiman,
guys,
I've
listen.
got to jump out soon.
Just 1 second. Just what? Yeah, I was just about to wrap. Thanks for that, Jack.
Yeah.
I was just about to wrap. Anyway, which is this? There's a tweet in the nest, a poll. Let me know who you think won. I know people are gonna be like, we're not the Candace crew, we're not the Andrew crew, but that's the best way I could describe it. So in the tweet in the nest above me, there is a poll because we all love polls. Who do you think won this debate? I'm talking about the debate The Andrew crew or the Candace crew? Vote, because everyone's going to do the closing arguments now. So what I want is for each side to choose one person who's going to do a closing argument. What I would like in this closing argument is maybe like 75 to 80% of the time talking about why they believe Andrew won or why they believe Candace won. And then 20% of the time they can kind of overarchingly talk about the case as well. So we kind of cover both aspects. Jake, from your side, because you were the person who I did invite, you can say it yourself, or you can get Rob, or whatever you want. That's fine. And then from the other side, I'll let Joe choose, because he's my boy, and he can choose if he wants to do it or somebody else wants to wrap. But go ahead, Jake.
Well, I think that Rob has done the majority of the arguing so far, so I think that it's only fair that he does the closing. He's been given most of the arguments.
Fair enough. Go ahead, Rob. Give us your kind of closing, if you could.
Thank you. And despite my balls being talked about and people making fun of the way I talk and losing my voice, I've enjoyed myself thoroughly. I do enjoy the conversation. We're all men here, except a couple of women. We could handle it, right? So no hard feelings to anyone. Let me say this. I'm a bit disappointed. It seemed that it was implied that we would eventually get to talking more about Candace's burden. Remember, the topic was both sides had an equal burden in this debate. And that burden was Andrew was going to prove overwhelming evidence Tyler Robinson did it, and Candace was going to prove overwhelming evidence that he was set up as a patsy. Joa sets the debate early by saying, quote, she provided no evidence. He later says that's because Andrew conceded, but the only points he's talking about there that he references are the ATF's claim about degraded DNA. That's a defensive claim. That's not a claim that the FBI set him up as a patsy. That's just a claim of maybe he wasn't the shooter. Maybe he wasn't the one that pulled the trigger. The claim that Candace was making, which was that he was set up by a patsy, and it's clear based on the comments she said that it's overwhelming he was set up by a patsy by the FBI. None of that is proven there. She didn't make one claim. I'm like screaming myself hoarse quite literally for 9 hours today, asking anyone to show me one piece of affirmative evidence she made for that claim. Now, you might not think Andrew did a good job defending the state's case overwhelming, but that's because he took half the time allowing Candace to poke holes in the official story any way she wanted, and she didn't do a very good job. She was just like, well, you know, I don't think it could have been this bullet. And they had a conversation about that. And then she was like, well, it's possible that Lance Twiggs made the Discord messages and not Tyler Robinson. And she was like, well, it's hearsay. Even if it was hearsay, that doesn't speak to whether or not we believe that Tyler Robinson committed this crime. By the way, Candace relies on hearsay for believing all of her theories. And what you heard here was people trying to defend Candace overwhelmingly by saying, but I've heard things said outside the debate that make me agree with Candace. Right. People are motivated to say they already agreed with Candace, and therefore, even though she didn't present any evidence of her claims in this debate, they still think she won. Regardless, Andrew presented affirmative claims to argue that Tyler Robinson did this shooting, even if you don't think he did the best job. His purpose was to get to Candace to defend claims that she was making that he was a patsy, including that other people killed him, like the French Foreign Legion, Masonic cults, Erica Kirk, Turning Point USA, or Israel. And in every time it was offered for her to explain, Andrew just asked, what's your evidence? And then let her talk. She talked almost 2-to-1 to Andrew and did not make one affirmative piece of evidence that any of her theories hold water. Even if you have questions about the case, even if you think Andrew could
Thank you for the gifted memberships,
the
CJ.
truth of the matter is at least he was making claims that, if true, would point to Tyler Robinson being the killer. Candace made no such claims. Her sycophants are going to claim, well, she was implying when she said that the degraded DNA on the rifle means that, well, that wouldn't be Tyler Robinson, and therefore he was set up by a patsy. By who? Could it not be that the state legitimately thinks that it was Tyler Robinson? And even if they're wrong, they're not intentionally setting him up as a patsy? Could it be that there was a backpack and that the evidence wasn't? In fact, we had a nice lawyer that came on, Octavia, although I disagree with some of her judgments. She says the state's not perfect. Sometimes they make mistakes. Exactly. Candace isn't making the claim, I have reasonable doubt, because possibly the Fed screwed up. She's making the claim they are intentionally setting this man up. I challenge whoever gives the closing statement on the other side. Show me one time in this debate, because we're judging this debate, that Candace Owens made any sort of positive evidence to suggest that the FBI was intentionally setting up this dude as a patsy. She claimed to have overwhelming evidence of that, and as far as I could see, she didn't present one piece of evidence. So because of that, I think that it is clear that Andrew Wilson, although not giving a perfect performance, absolutely at least gave evidence to his assertion that Tyler Robinson did it. There are people that have questions, but Candace Owens provided almost no evidence. And before you vote, wait and see what my opponent says. He's going to say, well, it was because the degradation argument. Well, she did mention that you couldn't quite make him out from the photos. None of that is evidence that the FBI is intentionally setting him up. She didn't provide any evidence, and nor will my opponent be able to do. He'll talk about shit that she said outside the debate. So thanks again for having me here, and I hope that everyone enjoyed it.
Thanks for that, Rob. Appreciate you being a good sport throughout this conversation. I know a few people joked about you, that you were a bit loud or whatever, but appreciate you being a good sport and having that conversation. Joa, do you want to give a wrap up for your team, or if you want to delegate it to somebody, go ahead, but give us your thoughts.
I'll do it. Look, first let me say Rob deserves a raise if he is Andrew's defense debater on X. He's losing his voice. He's doing it so much. But here's the thing. Their part wants you to believe that Candace Owens has the same standard of evidence as the power of the entire state and federal government. I believe that's a ridiculous claim, and no one would accept that as the standard of measuring whether the debate, how the debate goes. Also, Andrew stated he believes 75 to 80%, so he himself is not convinced. I'd be very surprised if someone who believes 75 to 85% would say that that person is guilty the way he has said in a court of law, that's a problem if people are not 100%, at least 90% positive before saying, yeah, I think this person's guilty, should be put to death. And here's the thing, evidence wasn't presented by Kansas. When it was mentioned, uh, Andrew almost always said he'll concede or that he'll grant it. Therefore, she didn't need to pull it up, and that is part of the problem. But their side wants you to believe that there was a 30-06 bullet that hit Charlie Kirk, but the ATF says they can't confirm that. They want you to believe that that bullet came from that gun, yet the tooling is also inconsistent. They want you to believe that Tyler Kirk pulled the trigger, yet
Sorry, guys.
his
Housekeeping was
DNA
at
is
the
the
door.
most degraded on the gun. They want you to believe that every picture of Tyler Robinson on that campus, maroon shirt, black shirt, whatever it may be, is the same person when their builds are different. And that's why people are questioning it. They want you to believe that it was Tyler Robinson's car when the neighbor said it was actually an older bald man that got out of the car. So you have conflicting evidence. So they want you to believe a lot of evidence that even the state has not been able to prove. And I didn't see anything from Andrew except for a text message that doesn't prove Tyler did it. It proves that he was scared. Even if it's true that Kirk was scared of the left, not that Tyler did it. So nothing Andrew said in that debate whatsoever points towards Tyler Robinson, not even a little bit. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence, but it doesn't point the finger at Tyler Robinson. The only thing that he said he believes that is Tyler in the stairwell, where in that photo, Twig says that he can identify him by the clothes, but it can't 100% identify him, and he doesn't recognize the hat. I don't know if Andrew has a prior relationship with Tyler Robinson. Maybe he's an ex-porn lover, that he knows him better than Twigs knows him, that he's able to 100% identify him. And that was really the only two pieces of evidence that Andrew presented. So this is why I don't believe they won, unless they want to hold Kansas to the same standard as the state and the FBI. Then yes, they both lost because none of them proved it. If you are rational and don't hold her to the same standard because she's just a civilian, then I think she put a lot of doubt, and the gambling market shows that now 35% of the bets think Tyler Robinson will be convicted, where before it was nearly 50%.
Appreciate that, Joe. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone. But just a quick one about we did do a poll on who won the debate. I just want people to know, obviously, I put a poll out after the Andrew Wilson debate, and obviously my audience is largely pro-Candace, and they voted 84% believed Candace won, 16% believed that Andrew won. But on this poll, it's a lot closer. This poll says 58% believe the Candace crew won, 42% believe the Andrew crew won. So I think that's quite a lot closer than I was expecting. I was expecting like 80-20 or something. So that was quite close. I think everyone does believe that everyone did a great job on this. If anybody wants to do a debate on our spaces, as you saw, we are the biggest spaces on X. Hit me up. I'll try and be as balanced as possible. I try my best to be a little bit asked those questions, and maybe I shouldn't have. But other than that, I think I was kind of balanced. But thanks to Jake for organizing this. I think in terms of agreeing to come in on there, bringing on Rob. Thanks to Joa and Trillian, Bryson who came on, Myron, Dr. Atusa, Uncle Tom, Paramount, and everybody else who came on. If I missed your name, apologies. Everybody who contributed. I think it was a great debate. I think it was a great conversation. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much,
can
Suleiman.
I add
Appreciate
something?
it.
Sorry, what was that?
Before we go.
Oh no, it's just that
the debate's over.
Sorry, what was that?
I was just saying thank you very much, and the debate's over. But yeah, appreciate you having us on, man. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was good.
It was good.
Thank you, man. Lighten up, Jake, man. Have a sense of humor once in a while, man.
I don't want to go into the debate, Dr. Tuso.
Not a debate. I just want to mention that I posted something about the fact that university crime scenes have been.
Anyway, see you later, guys. Have a great day. Not listening to this woman. All right, cool. So, guys, I'm absolutely knackered. I need to go and eat something. Goodness me. Rob, what a man. Absolutely cooked. Appreciate you guys all being with me today. We're going to probably do some more of those debates at some point, I'm assuming. But take care of yourselves, guys. Much love to you all. And I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.